start with them.
Yeah.
I thought it already started.
Yeah,
That's what I thought. So very impromptu
It's just going.
stunts.
Yeah, it is just going. I thought it will start off like.
In this episode, we have Abhishek Prasad. For people who don't know, you are the Chief Technical Officer for Prasad's group.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So before we get nerdy around what exactly you do inside Prasad's, I want to start off with, L.V. Prasad garu, who laid the foundation.
Yeah.
So నేను రీసెర్చ్ చేసినప్పుడు నాకు తెలిసింది ఏంటంటే he was born in Eluru, near Eluru దగ్గర పుట్టి పెరిగారు. And then his father declared bankruptcy in early 1920s. And that is when he decided, he was already married by then. L.V. Prasad garu was already married by then. And he decided to pursue a career in cinema.
Correct.
And నాకు అది ఎందుకు ఫ్యాసినేటింగ్ అనిపించింది అంటే ఐ థింక్ he went to Bombay after that. ఇప్పుడు now when we look at people around us, ఇంత టెక్నాలజీ నెట్వర్క్ కనెక్షన్స్ ఇంత ఉన్నప్పుడు ఒక రకమైన కాన్ఫిడెన్స్ ఉంటుంది. బట్ వీఆర్ టాకింగ్ అబౌట్ ప్రీ ఇండిపెండెన్స్ ఎరా.
It is.
ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ ఇప్పుడు చాలా అవైలబుల్ ఉంది దాని వల్ల.
ఇట్స్ నాట్ జస్ట్ ఇన్ఫర్మేషన్ రేవంత్, ఫ్రీడమ్.
ఫ్రీడమ్
It wasn't freedom what he did, okay? It was more of absconding, let's put it that way.
Yeah. No, but the whole idea of, chasing a dream.
Absolutely, yeah.
That too, when the whole country is talking about independence, one person pursuing his, believing in something, and akkadiki velli adi workout avutundo ledo kuda teliyadu, but he gave it a shot. And I don't know in which production house he started working, but I've learned that he started off as a clapper boy
Yep.
for cinemas, and I think
He worked his way up.
yeah,
so it was-
exactly. That's where I'm getting. So when I was doing my research on his story, so because he was working as a clapper boy, film set మీద ఉండేటోరు ఆయన, and he used to clap and he used to move back and understand how this shot is being developed, just like pretty much that scene. ఎంతమంది ఉన్నారు చూడు ఆ film లో మా. So
Absolutely.
he started learning and unlearning from whatever information that was available in front of him.
That was proper hands-on real experience he had. So
అంటే అక్కడ నాకు ఎక్కడ ఇంకా ఫ్యాసినేటింగ్ ఐడియా ఏంటనిపించింది అంటే, లాట్ ఆఫ్ పీపుల్ యూజువలీ ఏంటంటే ఓకే ఈరోజు పని చేసాము, ఇంటికి వెళ్ళి టీవీ చూసి పాడుకుందాం, దట్స్ ది ఐడియా. బట్ I've read when I was doing my research on his story, I was able to relate to a quote. Fishermen, when they're not going to the sea to fish, they're working on their nets so that tomorrow they'll use that net. So it's like, okay, there is a big picture, and when you're not in that zone to work on the bigger thing, it's okay,
You're
you're
always
working on
doing
something
something
else
back end, yeah.
that will impact the bigger picture. So in his head, he saw that probably, wherein he developed that passion to understand every department of cinema, because I think not just direction, he went into a lot of
everywhere,
other crafts.
he's done pretty much everything.
Yeah, and చాలా మందికి అట్లీస్ట్ ఈ జనరేషన్ వాళ్ళకి తెలియదు. నాకు కూడా ఈ రీసెర్చ్ చేస్తేనే తెలిసింది. ఇట్స్ నాట్ లైక్ ఐ న్యూ ఇట్ బిఫోర్. రీసెర్చ్ చేస్తేనే
ఈ
తెలుసు.
జనరేషన్ వాళ్ళకి మేజర్ గా తెలిసేది ఇంక ఈ రెండు, ప్రసాద్ మల్టీప్లెక్స్ అండ్ ఎల్వి ప్రసాద్ ఐ ఇన్స్టిట్యూట్ అదే హాస్పిటల్స్ తోనే. ఎవరైనా రీసెర్చ్ కూడా చేసేది అసలు ఎవరు ఎల్వి ప్రసాద్ అని స్టార్ట్ చేసేది అట్లనే, బేసిక్ క్యూరియాసిటీ అట్లనే స్టార్ట్ అయింది.
నాకు చిన్నప్పుడు వెళ్ళినప్పుడు ఇట్లా ఎస్కలేటర్ మీద వెళ్తుంటే ఇక్కడ ఫేస్
నేను అడిగి నేను అట్లనే చూసాను, నేను అట్లనే చూసి అట్లనే చదివా.
And he worked on the first Indian talkie, which is Alam Ara. How do you pronounce it?
I wouldn't know. So I think, okay, let me see. Okay, unfortunately, I didn't have too much time to spend with him when he was alive.
Right.
So I think he passed away when I was 5 years old.
Right.
I wish I had more time because there's so much to learn from him. And from what I've heard from my grandfather, father, and even those industry experts who have been able to interact with him, he was a very, I would say, humble person. Even till the last day, he was still he would not even eat proper meals. Like for me, home food is what he wants, and just green vegetables. That's it.
Okay.
So he was a very, I guess, what do you call this? Well-grounded, set in his ways, down to earth for sure.
Not so flamboyant.
Not at all. I mean, you would never seen him wear anything apart from a kurta and a Nehru jacket types. clothes. But anyway, coming back to the past, since you mentioned, I mean, whatever I've gathered also with, talking to people, and even we released an autobiography of him, or not autobiography, a biography of him, which that's where I got most of my information as well. So throughout his childhood, growing up, he was always fascinated by, not cinema, just by art. So, he would always try to get at acting, trying to act out in his local village school kids, skits and stuff like that. Now his family were not, I would not say they were doing well. They had a bunch of these agricultural land, and his father at that time wanted to set up silkworms. Start selling silk. So then he invested all his life's earnings, savings, everything into this, developing the silk.
Which period are we talking about?
I'm talking about right before he left out. So
Okay, 20s, 1920s.
30s to 2030s,
Right,
around
yeah.
then. So invested all his, savings. And at that time, he was optimistic, obviously. He thought he would be the first silk producer, whatever. But the common misunderstanding was, the main issue was silk does not grow in that part of Andhra. The temperature, the weather conditions don't hold good for that for those worms. So that's where he lost all his money, and basically he had to file for insolvency or whatever, make an announcement. And in those days, anybody going insolvent was a very there was like a black mark on you, and nobody would want to give their daughters for marriage or whatnot, right? So they basically ostracized you from society.
Right.
So that's
And
when
that too, it wasn't that structured because we're talking about pre-independence era.
Yeah. So even then, the moment then it's like the moment something like this happens, they just pretty much put you aside, don't even interact with you, nothing. So they no respect or whatnot. So at that time, he decided with, I think 100 rupees is all he had in his pocket. He just left the village, got onto a train and headed to Bombay. Now, that time he knew Bombay was, the upcoming place for all this cinema-related stuff.
Yeah.
So he said, that's my one-way ticket. He booked a one-way with 100 rupees. They didn't even know how to speak Hindi, nothing. So he just somehow ended up in Bombay. And then, I forget the studio name, but basically there was a studio there which was doing all the film shoots back then. He ended up getting a job right opposite the studio at a barber shop. Okay.
Nice.
So this barber shop was catering to all the celebrities back then. So all the makeup, whatever stuff. So he started off basically, sorry, step back a bit. When he went there, he went to the studio. He was literally peeping through the gates, trying to see what was happening inside. This barber shop, the owner, saw him and said, "Hey, what are you doing? Why are you doing every day?" He's like, "No, I'm very interested. I want to see what's happening." Then he found out obviously he has no money. He's not able to, feed himself, whatever. Okay, fine, come. Why don't you sweep my floors, stay in my barber shop, and I'll give you food, whatever. So that's how it started, this whole barber shop thing. One by one, celebrities started coming to the barber shop, and then that's when he was, started interacting, talking, and somehow he made his way into the studio. So being a security guard first, then, like you said, the clapper boy. Then slowly, just by showing up on time every day, just by doing his work diligently, even though it was a very small role, he worked his way up. So then and then holding a mic, then ultimately he went all the way to a side role, basically a dummy, a third person in the scene. Then from there, slowly grew. Then obviously once he started making showing that he was capable of delivering, actor, director, producer. So that's sort of how his thing was. And it's I wouldn't say a rags to riches kind of story, but it was more of a very hard, he didn't give up, not a single day. He went through so many issues, obviously, because you can't even speak the language, don't have money, nothing. So he worked his way. And basically what he always passed down to my grandfather passed it down to my dad and to me was, he always followed something, the 4 P's that he calls it, okay? So the 4 P's basically, P for passion, P for patience, P for perseverance, and P for purity of thought. So these were his sort of Bible that he followed, and everything he did was, guided by these conditions or whatnot. So that is something that, as being the 4th generation, my duty is now to take his legacy and his teachings and his thought process down to the next and keep passing it on.
Right.
So yeah, so I'm the fourth generation. It's big shoes to fill in because he. So then yeah, so let's focus on him for now. So after that, once he started getting success,
No, I think even before he started seeing success, I think he was in the right environment, because I read somewhere that, the director of Kalidas or Almara, not the director, the producer, he wanted to venture into South. Like he was from the Hindi film industry, but he wanted to venture into South. And he saw that, L.V. Prasad Garu has his means to do that. And that's when I think Kalidas, the first bilingual talkie, Tamil and Telugu happened. And Bhakta Prahlada in Telugu.
Right.
That's how it
You've
happened.
done your homework.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because
I take things. I take all this for granted, but it's good. So yeah, his main advantage was that he had the eye to understand what the audience wanted.
yeah,
Okay, that, if you ask me, that was his true skill. I mean, he knew what would sell. He knew what people wanted. So even if you see all his first few movies and whatever was all remakes.
exactly. So even this one, the first film that he did one of the blockbusters in Telugu that he directed was actually a remake of Tamil.
Correct.
Yeah.
So he knew that. He knew what the audience and what people wanted, and he played only by emotions. That was his way. Today, if you look at cinema, you have emotional dramas, thrillers, but now you have most of these VFX heavy Marvel types action stuff. So content today is consumed by a lot of different types of people, but back then he had that whatever you want to call it, but
Eye for it.
to know what would click, and that's how he started selecting his movies, writing based on those kind of scripts. Which, if you do any of that today, you can be sure it's not going to sell. I mean,
In fact, NTR movie the one in which Balakrishna Garu acted, there's a scene wherein he mentions that, L.V. Prasad Garu wrote a letter to him, to NTR, saying that, you should quit your job and come into movies. He used, like you said, he had the time, pushing people to try stuff. And that's when NTR Garu went to Chennai, and he only introduced NTR Garu into cinemas. Yeah.
ఎక్కడ చూసారు?
అది ఐ థింక్ ఏదో థియేటర్ లో ఐ థింక్ ఎన్టీఆర్ యూస్ టు పర్ఫార్మ్ ఇన్ డ్రామా థియేటర్. ఐఎమ్ నాట్ షూర్, ఐ కుడ్ బి రాంగ్.
this is all history for me. I mean,
he wrote a letter to,
I should know all this.
He wrote a letter to NTR Garu saying that you should actually quit whatever you're doing and you should try acting in movies.
Okay.
So that's how he comes in, and he was directing a movie called Manadesam, and in that NTR Garu plays a small role of a constable. And then the first multi-starrer film that he directed, L.V. Prasad Garu directed with NTR Garu and A.N.R. Garu, which established both of them as the superstars of Telugu
You are
cinema.
educating me at this point right now.
But
Sorry. I need to...
అంటే when at least we were kids, we knew Krishna Garu or Shobhan Babu Garu. I mean, they were pretty much still there doing cinemas.
Right.
But we used to, నేను ఇంట్లో చూసేటోండి. My dad is a big
ఇంకా
fan
అప్పుడు
of...
మూవీస్ చేయకపోతుండే అనుకుంటా, బట్ మనము ఆ మూవీసే చూస్తుండే, ఎందుకంటే టీవీలో అదే వస్తుంది. నాకైతే అయ్యే వస్తుండే, ఎందుకంటే పాత సినిమాలే వస్తుండే, కొత్త సినిమాలు రాకపోతుండే. 90s అంతా వీళ్ళందరూ చేయడం ఆపేశారు, అప్పటికే ఆపేశారు.
టీవీలో వీళ్ళందరూ వచ్చేటోళ్ళు,
వాళ్ళే వచ్చేటోళ్ళు. అట్లనే చూసిన నేను చాలా పాత సినిమాలు నేను చూసింది అలానే.
So I was నాకు టీవీలో చూసి I was a fan of Krishna Garu first. But my dad used to watch NTR Garu's film on another channel.
Sure.
And then that's how I got introduced to the black and white cinema. So yeah.
No, times have changed since then, for sure. So you still consume black and white?
Not much, but every Sunday that's like a traditional thing that happens in our house. Like, we sit and watch old cinemas.
All the black and white movies that have released after 1990, let's say, because that is a basic interest of the director, for him to place that in the movie, right? Shoot it that way, like Memento, following. And
Recently
Oppenheimer.
Oppenheimer also.
not Oppenheimer, even Malayalam
Brahmayugam.
Brahmayugam.
It was.
Then I didn't actually watch Brahmayugam. I have to watch it. But I
Brahmayugam in
didn't know.
PCX was amazing.
Amazing, huh?
Amazing.
The music is good in Brahmayugam. The
Sound
background,
was-
I have not seen this, so we'll go watch it together.
But recently, when people are using the black and white screen on the in the theaters, like if that is only the director's wish to put it there, right?
Yeah, it's a
that is
creative-
always-
it's a creative
it is a creative
decision.
decision.
Yeah.
And and the 4 movies that I've told, 3 of them are directed by Nolan, like Christopher Nolan. But in general, having that eye just to put it out there, where everybody is more concentrated on the crispness of the quality or the resolution of the camera, or everything that is there, and this guy just puts black and white and he shows us a different way of cinema, right?
Yeah, no, it's telling a completely different
Way of telling the
different way
story,
of-
right? It is very different, and it is great actually.
So after L.V. Prasad Garu, last time we met, you were talking about how your grandfather started taking up a
Right.
new set of responsibilities.
Right.
Then your father jumped in and you told me about how back in the day, 80s and 90s, I'm somewhere there, but ISD phones, he used to book calls and, connect with people.
Okay, yeah,
You were
yeah.
telling me. So, yeah, if you...
Sure. So as great-grandfather Ali Prasad was going on sets, doing his creative work. So he was the only creative person in our family, just
Okay.
putting it out there. The others are all pseudo-creative, technical / more business-oriented.
Right.
My great-grandfather, he didn't care about making money. That was not his vision at all. For him, is you put me behind a camera or in front of a camera. That's the happiest
that is
for
what
me.
he wanted, maybe. Yeah.
So we didn't. I mean, I guess back then also we weren't really, as how we are today. It's very different back then. We were still trying to build a name for ourselves, right? Prasads. So grandfather back then, actually for one of our own Prasad production movies. So back then, how film was is every theater had your film projectors, which were all your analog days, right? All the film reels and stuff. So what happens typically is after you shoot and after editing is done, you have to make multiple prints, which then get distributed to all these cinema theaters. So our own movie, my grandfather went to another studio to get it processed. This is before we had our whole Prasad labs.
Okay.
So during that experience or whatever, that one transaction, it was really difficult for my grandfather to get his prints on time, or there were some issues that he had where he felt he wasn't being serviced properly. Ultimately, it's a service, right? Yeah, I'm going to a company to do this.
Yeah.
You service me. So he didn't, went through hell basically, that transaction. And that's when he came about saying that, okay, why don't I start doing this film processing myself? And that's sort of how we pivoted from Prasad Productions into Prasad Film Labs. So he did not have the creative. He tried acting in a small role. The director said, get lost, pretty much that. He would come late for shoots. This is my grandfather I'm talking about, not a great-grandfather. So then he realized, okay, cinema acting is not for me. Let me focus on this. He did his master's in the US also in business. So when he came back, he thought this was a niche. The industry is not being serviced properly. There is scale. It's going to blow up. Let me try and do this.
But this was in which years? Like what is that? 70s? Is this 70s?
Late 70s, early
70s?
80s is what started it. And so that sort of created this whole Prasad Film Labs, where we set up labs in Chennai, in Mumbai, and then last was Hyderabad. So that's sort of how my grandfather got into the business, or created this business around Prasad Productions. And great-grandfather was doing his productions, his directing, whatever. Grandfather started this, and he was a very, till today, he's very, quality, he's a quality freak, control freak in a way, where our practices that the lab was following was on par or in lines or even better than international standards. That's the kind of mindset that he put into all his employees and himself as well. So then slowly that business started growing in the sense we were delivering the best, I wouldn't say best, we were delivering good, much better quality than their competition. And then that grew. And then it became sort of a very profitable venture.
And if I'm not wrong, you that particular business wasn't just catering to Telugu cinema; it was to
It was to all
multiple languages, right?
Multiple, not only movies, also even
Yes,
ad
yeah.
films.
Yeah.
Because back then we had no digital cameras, nothing.
Right.
Everything was film. So even processing that. So and because of his SOPs, his workflows that he put into place,
The process, yeah.
processes which are such high quality and on-time deliveries, whatnot. People from Bombay were coming to Chennai to get their film processed. We had even neighboring countries, Sri Lanka, coming in and processing their films with us. So then it became I guess we were market leaders back then. But the quality spoke for itself. So we had people all over, and even Bhubaneswar, Calcutta, they were all sending there because Odisha market is big also,
Right.
for films. So all the content was coming to the south to get processed, and then it gets. We make the prints and we ship the prints back. So, and then he built his entire business. He grew it. At his prime, he was traveling to Mumbai to set up the lab there, Chennai to run the existing lab, Hyderabad new lab, Trivandrum, Bhubaneswar. So he literally himself you could never see him. I was always happy when he come to Chennai because, back then Air India used to give you chocolates. So he would always come with chocolates and, so I'd be like, hey, grandfather's come, Tata's here, so let's get chocolates. But
So manam ekkadaithe kalsamo, that is the one that he set up in Hyderabad, right?
yes, correct. So
okay.
the Prasad Film Labs is in, that's what
Banjaras,
Banjaras, yeah. So that started only in the late 90s. So even the Telugu market, it wasn't very big over here in Hyderabad. Everything was getting done out of Chennai.
Out of Chennai, yeah.
Then
That
the
is-
market grew, and then that's when Hyderabad became a big Telugu.
In fact,
Tollywood cinema.
and the amount of absorption rate that Hyderabad had back then, like for cinema, was koncham takkuve.
Yeah,
because it was mostly Krishna district. I remember
It was
talkies.
Andhra more.
Talkies atundevi ekkuva. Which could with theaters which had sound.
Right.
I think it was Vijayawada, Kakinada, Rajahmundry, Tirupati, and somewhere around Vizag. This part anta ekku lekunde is what I heard. We're talking about. Yeah.
It probably is the case, but I think even back then it just Chennai became a hub for cinema in the south. So all your neighboring, even Kerala, Karnataka, they were all coming to Chennai to get their films processed. And then as each individual market grew out, that's when grandfather came and set up Hyderabad as well. So that was sort of his contribution. So then in 2000, so he had actually gone to the US, probably for a conference if I'm not wrong, because for him vacation was, even till today, he won't take a vacation. It's difficult, because even today I'm here with you talking, he's at work right now, sitting. So that generation is very different. Anyways, that's what I'm saying, big shoes to fill. So yeah, he was there in the US. I think it was the Smithsonian Museum, okay, one of these museums in DC, where he went and experienced the IMAX experience. And IMAX back then was not doing cinema at all. They were doing more documentaries. They were doing more of nature, like Nat Geo, Discovery
Geo,
types, that kind of content. Because you had special cameras, you had special projection equipment, and it was never going to. The intention was never to get into cinema, right? And that's pretty much how IMAX started. Pure technology company, right? And he experienced something, content over there. I think it was basically the migration of geese, if I'm not wrong. Okay, so like 20-minute show. That's all IMAX was back then. 20-minute experiences. But larger than life, the best, biggest screens, the biggest technology. Better sound for sure. So he experienced that and fell in love with it. And then he said, I need to now bring IMAX to India. And that became his mission from 2000 onwards. And it was not easy. Back then, foreign exchange, there was no support from the government. So you couldn't even, convert, or you couldn't do any foreign transactions, nothing. So a lot of back and forth meetings with the government. It took a lot of effort, right? But he didn't give up. He was like, this has to come, because he fell in love with it.
But why Hyderabad?
I think Hyderabad, because that's when he moved here to set up the labs, right? So then he knew that There was no multiplexes. Hyderabad as a city was not yet going on to this full mainstream cinema.
అసలు లేవు మల్టీప్లెక్స్ లేదు.
మల్టీప్లెక్స్
There were only single screens and all that. So, and back then the tourist area, which is Necklace Road, that location, that was coming up for development, and it just clicked. It just clicked that back then the government and him, they saw eye to eye, and it just worked out. So why Hyderabad? I think it would be is the market was going to grow. He saw that visibility, and there was support from the government side. So that property per se is not a private entity. It's a public-private partnership.
I know this. Yeah.
So that's
Which
how.
property area?
IMAX
Prasad's multiplex.
it's a government. It's a consortium of Prasads and
And the government.
They call it a PPP, which is a private-public partnership.
Oh.
which is why you guys were even able to manage the parking and all of that over the years.
Everything, yeah. So it's a give and take. I mean, ultimately, if we do well, the government, we're partners, right? So
Right.
however we can help each other, we do. So that's sort of that's how it led to the whole IMAX part. And back and forth, he flew to Canada to meet the IMAX team, trying to figure out how to do this, and a lot of back and forths.
క్రేజీ కదా అసలు.
Back then it wasn't. I mean, today you send an email.
And the drive to do all that. Obviously, it is not easy.
నేను అక్కడ ఫీల్ అయింది ఇక్కడ అందరికి ఫీల్ చేయాలి. ఆ డ్రైవ్ ఏదైతే ఉండిందో
అది నేను ఫీల్ అయ్యా 2003లో. నిజంగా బ్లూ అర్త్ అనుకుంటాను ఫస్ట్ మూవీ చూసింది 2000 రిలీజ్ అయిన
Everest and Blue Earth were the first
షోస్.
అసలు
నేను రెండు చూసా. ఎవరెస్ట్ ఫస్ట్ బ్లూ అర్త్ చూసిన నేను, దాని తర్వాత అనుకుంటా.
And I think even till date, if you ask me what is the best cinema experience, I would say the IMAX film. Back in the day, what we all saw, Everest and all that, I don't think anything can come close to.
అండ్ బ్లూ అర్త్ డేవిడ్ అటెన్బర్గ్ అనుకుంటా కదా.
Yeah, the voiceover.
I think తర్వాత ఇది కూడా వచ్చింది పోలార్ ఎక్స్ప్రెస్.
పోలార్ ఎక్స్ప్రెస్ అవి ఇంకా ఫీచర్ ఫిల్మ్ కదా. ఇది బ్లూ అర్త్ ఇదంతా లైక్ ఎంటైర్లీ షార్ట్ ఫర్ ఐమాక్స్ అనుకుంటాను అది. సో ఆబ్వియస్లీ నీకు ఫుల్ స్క్రీన్ ఫిల్ అయిపోతుంది. అరే అప్పుడు ఇంతే ఉంది చూస్తుంది ఆ సైజ్ ఎంత టూ మచ్, అది ఇనార్మస్. లైక్ ఇప్పుడు అప్రిషియేట్ చేస్తాం ఇంకా మనము ఆ స్క్రీన్ అండ్ సౌండ్ ని. అప్పుడు మనం అంత అప్రిషియేట్ చేయం. అరే ఏదో అయిపోతుంది, ఆ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ఏదో ఇచ్చి మ్యాజిక్ లాగా ఉంది అనిపిస్తుంటే కానీ ఇప్పుడు అప్రిషియేట్.
ఫ్లైట్స్ వేసుకొని కెనడాకి నువ్వు ఫెయిల్ అవ్వడానికి
హైదరాబాద్ అది లొకేషన్ కూడా బాగుంటది. ఎందుకంటే నెక్లెస్ రోడ్ పక్కకి మంచిగా ట్యాంక్ బండ్ పక్కకి, అంటే ఎంతైనా సైట్ సీయింగ్. నీకు అదంతా సైట్ సీయింగ్ ఏరియా అయిపోయింది. ఇప్పుడు అయిపోయింది, అప్పుడు నాకు తెలియదు ఎట్లా ఉంటుంది.
Because even Chandrababu Naidu was promoting Hyderabad back then. So that's how he was partnering with a lot of companies. Into movies gani, ata IT gani, lot of things were happening back then. Yes.
No, but that was the idea. That entire Necklace Road,
the location,
was a tourist,
right? It was very strategic location.
Yeah, right? So that's why it worked out. That's why it was interesting to get a partner up with them. So yeah, so it was all his hard work to get it in. Finally, we got it in, and we've all experienced it. So we've seen the best, and it was, I think, the world's second largest screen. It still is the world's second largest.
When it actually
India
opened,
first.
India is the largest, but I'm saying world's.
2003 when it was established here, it was the largest screen all over the world.
I thought Sydney had like a centimeter or something more.
No, I think that came later.
It came
Yeah,
later.
it came later.
Sydney's came later, but when IMAX is opened in Hyderabad, that was the biggest screen in whole world.
Sydney was
that is one fact I read in Google. I feel that is true.
వరల్డ్ నాకు తెలియదు కానీ ఏషియా 100%.
నేను చూసింది వరల్డ్.
World's largest unde. I think Sydney happened late 2000s or early 2010s. Yeah.
Yeah, but now
That is maybe bigger now.
second by I think a couple of maybe 1 or 2 inches or centimeters. I'm not sure. So
Yeah.
Well, it's still a great feat. Like having that screen in Hyderabad, it is. I mean, I like Hyderabad, right? So it represents Hyderabad.
Yeah,
It represents Hyderabad. The IMAX represents Hyderabad. Because I've known people who came from Bangalore to watch a few Harry Potter movies and the Spider-Man movies in the big screen.
Right.
Like I know a lot of people. Spider-Man 2 released in the big screen. Spider-Man 1 was not released, I guess. But it was not released. It was in 2003. Spider-Man 2, it was 2005, I think. 2005, 2006. But it got released in big screen.
I think
ఫైనల్ ఫైట్ ఉంటుంది చూడు, అది
ఆటో ఆక్టేవియస్ కదా, కాదు స్పైడర్-మ్యాన్ 3
గురించి చెప్తున్నా. శాండ్ మ్యాన్ ఫైట్ ఉంటది, చైర్స్ వైబ్రేట్ అయినాయి. అది నేను ఎప్పుడు ఫీల్ అవ్వాలి ఒక థియేటర్ లో. నేను గౌతమ్ వాళ్ళ మామ తీసుకెళ్లారు మా ఇద్దరిని. అసలు నేను అది ఫస్ట్ టైం వైబ్రేట్ అవుతుంది సీట్, అసలు ఫైట్ అసలు.
I think Spider-Man, we broke records. We had world records for the most number of admits.
Yeah, and I think with you guys, I think IMAX was introduced to India. Right? People like, what is IMAX?
What is IMAX?
అసలు అది ఎస్టాబ్లిష్ అయ్యింది because of you guys, because no one knew, like, you know.
There was an IMAX in Bombay.
Yeah.
But that was a dome experience. I think it was at Labs. So, but that was a whole different experience altogether.
Was
so
that not a theater? Like the whole.
It is a. I mean, it was a dome theater. So you really can't watch.
More like a planetarium
type. So again, IMAX
not for movies, not for feature films, is that?
You
you
cannot
can
watch.
అంటే you can feature, but just that, you know, నీకు
A screen వేరే shape and size.
It's not going to be your standard aspect ratios that you see on cinema. It's going to be different. And you cannot, I mean, you can project it that way, but you're going to end up using only maybe 20% of the whole planetarium's, I mean, the dome.
Yeah.
But I have one question pertaining to the size of the screen. Like, why don't other companies do that? Like, is it impossible? Is it hard? But why?
You mean in today's time? Why
Today's
no
time,
one's-
yeah, because there's a lot of technology right now, right? More than last 20 years back.
Correct.
It is better now.
Technology is there now. Anybody can put up a big screen. It's all going to come down to feasibility.
But I think the aspect ratio for IMAX is patented, right?
It's not patented, but they were the pioneers of it. This whole 1.43 aspect ratio. It's not patented because even your TVs back in the day were the same. Your old
square shape,
square 4:3
Tube TVs.
all SD content, so all your old tapes, all your VHS tapes and all that, they're all 4:3. So 1.43 came from there. IMAX was the first ones to bring it to a large scale. Or most of the other aspect ratios were CinemaScope, which is 2.3, and then flat came later. But Cinema 2.3 was pretty much the standard back then. Again, there are what determines these standards are more of directors, DOPs, how they want
Their
to.
choice.
And also, I think the Academy has not a regulation, but for them to consider the film, it has to be in this aspect ratio.
Correct. So now with the whole DCI is your Digital Cinema Initiative. So the Academy is in SIMT, which is Society of Motion Pictures of Television and this thing. So they have defined standards. You have standards now for what cinema is. So literally today you only have two DCI specs. One is your scope, like I said, 2.35, and you have flat, which is 1.85. So it's a bit more of a square. CinemaScope is a rectangle like what we all see. 1.89 is a flat, which is more of a square. 1.43, which is a IMAX, is more of a square. Now, IMAX is not DCI, so it's this whole entire ecosystem. So it's not doesn't follow these standards.
Okay.
But they set their own standards and they built a brand around it. So that's IMAX point of view. But so today the aspect ratio is only this. And coming back to your question about why no one's putting large screens, rents. Today's real estate rent. Instead of putting a large screen, you can put three or four other small screens.
And people will watch and business will happen.
Business will happen. I mean, now it's dropping.
It's actually dropping because I see, especially in North India, if you look at Delhi, there's so many multiplexes in Delhi. Like every sector has 3-4 multiplexes with 10-12 screens. And I remember watching a Telugu cinema in 2018, I guess. Like we were just 4 people in the theater. Like that's not feasible. Like from a business point of view,
absolutely not.
anta sound ki no current avanni betti just 4 people watching it. There's no feasibility in that. But because you've put up a show, you have to commit to it. Adi.
ఎప్పుడైనా ఒక్కడమే చూసిన థియేటర్ లో.
Yeah, Vizag lo.
Really?
Even I watched.
They didn't cancel the show?
No, they didn't. Now they're cancelling, man.
Yeah.
Back then they didn't. I was in 10th. I watched the first
Recently
movie.
Mandu got cancel అయింది కదా.
అవును ఏదో కాను సినిమా అక్కడ కదా
Cancel అయింది.
క్యాన్సిల్ అయింది ఇక్కడ
So otherwise, it makes no sense because, like you said, your operating costs, you're paying for AC, you're paying for projection, you're paying for audio. So if
there's
you-
only one
No matter
I'd rather refund you, give you an extra ticket later, and then
వాచ్ సమ్ అదర్ మూవీ
ఎంత ప్యాషన్ ఉన్న ఒక పాయింట్ తర్వాత
ఆపేయాలి బిజినెస్ ఇదంటే 2 times చూసిన 2 times ఒక్కసారి అయితే ఒక్కడనే ఉండే నేను వేరే సైడ్ వేరే టైం అట్లీస్ట్ 4 people ఉండే అంటే ఒక్కడిని చూసినప్పుడు కూడా
But yeah, so large screen feasibility, it's all to do with that. But the trend is changing. Now, all these multiplexes, including ours, your occupancy is dropping drastically. Either because your OTTs are picking up, which it is, but now again that's plateauing, or your home cinema experiences are becoming affordable.
రైట్
Anyone can now invest at home and you have your own theater at home. So that's changing, but occupancies are dropping now. So we're talking about, if you take all these big chains, including us, 15 to 25% occupancy.
బట్ అగైన్ అక్కడ కూడా ఐ థింక్ ఐ సీ నాట్ జస్ట్ థియేటర్స్ బట్ నౌ పీపుల్ ఆర్ డూయింగ్ రీ-రిలీజెస్
Correct.
అది అవుతుంది విచ్ ఇస్ అగైన్ గెటింగ్ అ డిఫరెంట్ సెట్ ఆఫ్ క్రౌడ్ టు ద థియేటర్స్ సో ఐ థింక్ ఇట్స్
రిలీజెస్ ఒకటి ఇంకొకటి ఏంటంటారా అంటే చాలా తొందర వచ్చేస్తుంది ఆన్లైన్ లైక్ మూవీ హిట్ అయినా కూడా మొన్న ఏదో రీసెంట్ గా చూసిన మూవీ హిట్ అయింది మంచి నడిచింది అయినా కూడా 45 days లో నీకు ఆన్లైన్ వచ్చేస్తే అది జనాలు ఆగట్లేరు ఇప్పుడు నా పేరెంట్స్ వస్తుంది ఒక సినిమా వస్తుందంటే వాళ్ళు వెళ్ళారు థియేటర్కి ఇంకా భారతీయుడు 2 తీసుకో భారతీయుడు 2 రిలీజ్ 3 weeks అవుతుందా ఇట్ ఇస్ ఆల్రెడీ ఆన్ నెట్ఫ్లిక్స్
Yeah.
సో ఇట్ డెంట్ డూ వెల్ ఇన్ ద థియేటర్స్ బట్ స్టిల్ లైక్
కానీ హిట్ అయిన సినిమాలు కూడా వచ్చేసాయి
వచ్చేసాయి.
అట్లే
వెంటనే
fast
వస్తున్నాయి.
వచ్చాయి.
Today times have changed. Back then we used to have movies running for 1 year.
Yeah, exactly.
100 days,
100 days,
200
that was a
days.
very big thing, right?
Posters,
100
we
days
used to
in
see
200
posters.
centers.
Actually, మనం
100
ఆ
days in
posters
200
పెట్టాలి.
centers.
200 days.
అదే
ఆ posters పెట్టాలి మనం.
Today 2 weeks is a hit.
Hit, yeah.
Yeah.
2 weeks
That's
or 3
how it
weeks.
is now.
Look, they're making that kind of money in those 2 weeks, right? Number of theaters have increased. Like they're releasing in more number of theaters to get that money back.
Correct.
And on that, they're increasing the price of the ticket also. Like
That's what the digital cinema did for the industry. So now it's become so easy to distribute to so many screens. So that's the benefit of digital cinema.
And normally, if people are not like people these days don't spend 450 on a ticket. Like some people who are very interested in watching that experience in the theater, they do. Like 450 is a lot for a movie. Like if you show me a movie like Blue Earth maybe because it is entirely shot on IMAX and if they're giving me that experience then obviously I'm willing to spend that 450. But 450 to watch a normal movie which I can get the same kind of experience in a different theater, I would actually go in that theater or watch it on my TV at home. That is more comfortable.
That's the issues that most of these multiplex owners are trying to deal with now.
Yeah.
How do we play with pricing, or how do we give the how do we justify all this? At least in Telangana, even Tamil Nadu, there's a cap. You go to Bangalore, you go to Karnataka.
Even Andhra has a cap. I don't know if they lifted it or not.
No,
But
they have a cap. You're right.
Yeah.
Bangalore, Mumbai were always like that. Like because I knew this when I was
even Delhi.
Yeah, so think about it. They're charging the same for a or maybe the similar experience, similar theater size, similar audio. Everyone has the same projector. Everyone has the same audio today. I mean, there are maybe 3 or 4 big players. That's about it. So the same technology, same everything. But why am I paying only 150, 200 here? Why am I paying 1,000 rupees there?
It is the same. Bangalore lo నేను చూసింది తెలుసా ఫస్ట్ టైం చూసిన 2010 అండ్ బెంగళూరు వెళ్ళినప్పుడు విఘ్నేష్ అంతో నా ఫ్రెండ్ అంతో పోయినా వాడు చూపించాడు ఏంటి తెలుసా సేమ్ థియేటర్ సేమ్ స్క్రీన్ మండే మార్నింగ్ ఇట్ ఇస్ $90 సాటర్డే నైట్ ఇట్ ఇస్ $1,200 లైక్ అదంతే డిఫరెన్స్ అది లైక్ నువ్వు మళ్ళీ సాటర్డే ఎర్లీ మార్నింగ్ తీసుకో సాటర్డే మార్నింగ్ 8కి స్టార్ట్ అవుతుండే అప్పుడు బెంగళూరులో షోస్ 8:45 8:20కి ఉంటుండే షోస్ 8:20కి తీసుకో ముంబైలో కూడా ఇంతే 8:20 తీసుకో 8:20కి నీకు 110 అంతే దాని తర్వాత నువ్వు యాజ్ ద డే ప్రోగ్రెసెస్ లైక్ నువ్వు అవుతుంది 10 అవుతుంది 12 అవుతుంది ఆఫ్టర్నూన్ అవుతుంది ఈవినింగ్ 7:30 ఇస్ like the highest rate that they can have 7:30 to 9:30 like 1,200 1,300
అవును అది ఉంది
and people actually go ఎందుకంటే వాళ్ళకి ఇంకెప్పుడు టైం దొరకదు కదా థియేటర్లో చూడడానికి దొరకదు అదే క్యాష్ చేసుకున్నాను ఇంకా బెంగళూరు ఇంకా ఐటీ సెక్టర్ మొత్తం అక్కడే స్టార్ట్ అయింది జనాలు అందరూ అక్కడ మూవ్ అవుతున్నారు నీకు చాయిస్ తక్కువ, నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ థియేటర్స్ తక్కువ. ఇప్పుడంటే నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ థియేటర్స్ చాలా ఎక్కువ ఉన్నాయి కదా.
Every district has a theater.
నాకు బెంగళూరు తెలియదు కానీ ఢిల్లీ నాకు ఏమనిపించింది అంటే బికాస్ ద ఆక్యుపెన్సీ ఈజ్ ఆల్వేస్ లెస్ ద టికెట్ ప్రాసెస్ ఆర్ హై అని నాకు అనిపించింది. బికాస్ నేను ఢిల్లీలో ఎప్పుడు మూవీ నేను ఢిల్లీ 7 years స్ట్రైట్ వెళ్ళా ఎవ్రీ సమ్మర్. అండ్ ఐ యూస్ టు వాచ్ మూవీస్ అండ్ ఎప్పుడు కూడా నాకు థియేటర్ అట్లీస్ట్ హాఫ్ ఫుల్ అన్నట్టు కూడా నాకు గుర్తులేదు. బట్ ద ప్రైస్ వర్ వెరీ హై.
Correct. I mean, that's why, because of occupancy, they have to survive, no?
Right.
This is the only way. You either escalate your concessions pricing, or you have to your box office ticket pricing. There's only two ways.
అంతే రెండే. ఎట్లా మల్టీప్లెక్స్ కి డబ్బులు వచ్చేది అంతే, థియేటర్ ఓనర్స్ కి డబ్బులు వచ్చేది అయితే అట్లా.
నాకు ఒక డౌట్ ఉంది అభిషేక్, లైక్ ఇప్పుడు లెట్స్ సే ఫర్ మూవీస్ డూయింగ్ వెల్, I mean it's not coming from a big production house, and you've given probably 2 or 3 shows for that movie in a day, and let's say the occupancy is high. So ikkada theaters or the multiplexes, do they take a call that let's increase the shows, or is it coming from the distributor or the producer?
It's all to do with negotiations. It's a give and take. So ultimately we can take a call, but again we don't want to, we have to always negotiate with the distributors
with
and
them,
discuss
maybe.
with them and understand. Because if you have 2 or 3 movies releasing on Friday, everybody wants their movies to be play the most number of shows. So we can take that call on how many shows, but you don't want to also get them unhappy, or we have to be nice, diplomatic. Somehow we'll have to find an arrangement. But multiplex owners take a call. They have full control of scheduling.
Right.
Which movie is what. But again, it's a give and take, and we also have a say in the sense, okay, this movie has this star cast, we know this might do well, so we'll give this extra show. Stuff like that.
So do they have a say in the timing of the show, maybe?
No.
Do they discuss with you about that, or is it your choice entirely?
As cinema
Our
length,
choice entirely to do whatever. I mean, we can schedule whenever. But again, like I said, it's all to do with
The discussion.
discussions that it's had.
అంటే నేను అనేది ఏంటంటే ఇప్పుడు 2 movies రిలీజ్ అయ్యాయి అనుకో, 2 movies ఆబ్వియస్లీ 3 movies అనుకో, 2 movies అంటే పెట్టేసేయచ్చు అన్ని షోస్, 3 movies అనుకో, ఈవినింగ్ ఎక్కువ మంది వస్తారు కదా. సో ఆబ్వియస్లీ నా మూవీ 7:30కి 3 shows పెట్టు, 3 different screens లో పెట్టు అని అడుగుతారా? నా క్వశ్చన్ అది ఉండే. లైక్ ఎవరంటే నాకు తెలియదు అసలు అది అడుగుతారా, అట్లా అడగొచ్చా, అసలు ఒక థియేటర్ని అడగొచ్చా అనేది నాకు అందుకు అడిగాను నేను.
It's not more of show timing, it's just more number of shows.
నెంబర్ ఆఫ్ షోస్.
So they'll say, I want 25 shows.
and also it depends on the length of the cinema
Yeah, that's
and the
important
operational
for us.
buffer that you keep between each
Shows,
show,
between shows.
housekeeping for all of that, right?
That's a major challenge, because now if movies are going late, like for a 3-hour movie, and you can run only 3 or 4 shows. So you lose an entire fifth show that you could possibly have. So all that comes into play when you're scheduling. It's not an easy job. It's because you don't want to get one distributor unhappy, because next movie he will not come to you, or he will not give it to you. So it's a give and take. It's not easy calls, but it is the nature of the business.
Right.
But I still feel Prasad's multiplex, not the IMAX, not the big screen, the multiplex has the best experience for me. A theater
So-
experience in
So
general.
for was Screen 4 the first Dolby Atmos
Yeah.
in
So
Hyderabad?
Prasad as a brand, with my father, we've always tried to be first movers. So any new technology, any new thing that comes to the industry, we try and launch it in India for the first. So when it came to Atmos, we opened the first Atmos recording mixing studio in the Banjara Hills office in Hyderabad. We were the first Dolby Screen 4. But to come back to your question, why multiplex is, even I personally feel that way, is only because our screen size.
So exactly. Yeah.
Screen size and the layout, the design of the theaters
Theater.
Yeah.
are unique in the sense today nobody's going to build in those dimensions, because it just does not make
It is not
financial
crampy
feasible.
like other. They don't
Yeah.
have a lot of leg room in different theaters, the
Ante
other
garu,
theaters.
There's a
Prasad's-
science behind all of this, right? The
Prasad's
whole-
theaters would have usually all 5, I mean not the 5th one, but at least the 4 and the 6th
Yeah.
one, they're wide.
it's
Very multiplexes lo, they're long. They're not wide, but they're
Exactly.
long. Yeah.
There's a science behind all that. There's all to do with the viewing angles and what is the right. So there are standards that
Yes.
that are set out. So today it makes more sense to fit in longer screens so you can have multiple others. But whereas for us, we're lucky that we have this big screens. And today, if you say if I'm opening a new screen, which way will I go? money. I mean, the business model will show build this way, but ultimately,
Experience.
for us, the experience is to build wider stadium seating wise.
Right.
So that gives a much better experience, even in terms of audio also.
Exactly. I mean, that is the best by far. Like, we've been to most of the multiplexes in Hyderabad, right?
Right.
Nothing can beat Prasad's. That is what I think.
So what is the audio system like being used right now?
So all our screens now are pretty much Atmos except Screen 5. So
Screen size, a small one.
No, chinnade.
Yeah, that came much later.
yeah.
But it's all Atmos. I mean 3D sound basically. It's today it can be Atmos, but we have this playbacks for DTS and for IAB, which is now the new standard set by SMPTE. IAB is immersive audio bitstream.
Okay.
So basically, how this works is so audio. Like for example, you must be 2.1, 5.1, and all that. So those are fixed channels that are going to one particular set of speakers. Whereas the way 3D sound works is it breaks it up into obviously more number of channels, more number of this thing, but the way it actually decodes information is all via bit streams. So how do I explain it? Okay, ultimately, Dolby Atmos, DTS, they're all playing with bit streams. Okay, that's the core back-end technology. How they split these channels, how they decode the information. So all these servers now can play back all these different versions. So when you ask me sound technology, I won't give a particular brand. I'll just say 3D immersive sound.
Okay.
So now Dolby, most productions are being done in Dolby Atmos. That's again how Dolby has entered into the production side, convinced, built entire ecosystem.
Right.
That's Dolby's always been the best in that. When it came to Dolby Digital, they were able to convince everybody, make your movie in this standard.
With this standard,
then
yeah.
I will sell this license to all the cinema theater owners. So then they built that ecosystem. So Dolby is brilliant at that. So now if Dolby,
So it's Dolby QSC speaker.
QSC is the manufacturer of the speakers.
Okay.
So QSCs build high quality sound systems. Dolby never built speakers.
Yeah.
They
It
built
was
the
just the
technology.
technology.
But now they acquired a company called SLS a couple years ago,
Okay.
who manufactures speakers. So now Dolby also manufacturing their own speakers.
So from the first, was it SLS? I think QSC is the latest.
QSC is what we upgraded the latest.
Initially, it was SLS.
No. SLS is a different technology altogether.
Okay.
We had in the big screen we had IMAX speakers. The ones that came supplied with them. Then intermediately we upgraded with JBLs.
Okay.
And then now when we did the final renovations to PCX, we put QSC. Because that auditorium comes with a whole different challenge. It's just so much volume.
Yeah, it is just huge, right? In terms of
Huge,
size.
and
Yeah.
standards means you have to give 82 to 89 dB of audio. So, just to fill that environment with that much audio.
A lot of speakers, I guess, right?
A
Throughout
lot of speakers and a lot of high wattage speakers. And if you want to drive that with the traditional amplifier with the passive speaker, you need to crank it up a lot. So that's why we said, let's just go with powered speakers.
Okay.
So all of those that you see there, all those, I think 35, I'm not sure the number, but those are all powered speakers. That's the only way
Inside the big screen.
Inside the big screen. That's the only way to deliver that kind of output. So even a guy sitting from here, if there's a bomb blast on the left of the screen, he should be able to feel that. So, and even the tuning that we went to was very warm. The speaker response, the audio is a very warm feel. Like how today if you play it from your an MP3 song on your whatever, versus when you play in the vinyl,
There's a lot of difference.
There's a lot of difference. So that's sort of how we decided we wanted to calibrate and use that particular. So we actually evaluated all speakers, all the different companies. We actually call them, we put them standalones, and we played the same content and all.
Okay.
Just to see what was
Working
working
best.
better
can
for
you
us.
talk about the transition process, like from IMAX to?
Okay, that's a interesting long story, but I guess we can touch about that. So IMAX back then, what we had was a film, the analog 65mm film, huge reels, projecting.
So the equipment you had to lease it from them, or you?
That's how IMAX works.
Okay.
So
You have to license their technology, something.
it's basically a lease.
Okay.
So it's a 20-year lease that we signed, and after 20 years, we return the equipment. So that's IMAX's model. That's how they are working. We don't buy the technology. We're leasing it. So how it works back then is we set up the IMAX screen, and they were giving us content. We were playing content, collecting ticket shares. It was happy. In 2012, film was died out. So it affected us not only from our labs, because we had shut down all our labs, but also now the content for IMAX screens was reducing.
And is it true that you have to only play IMAX releases in IMAX screen?
That is true. That is true. That is even till to date, only movies that are. I'll explain why that's the case. But so 12 when film died, digital came into play. There was no new film coming. So at one point, I think we even played a whole year of the same movie. I forget the name, but this is 2012. So and then we obviously went back to IMAX saying, hey, what do we do? There's no new content. How do we work? So they did offer us a solution, but it was a compromise in the sense back then to fill up our large screen, 4K resolution, it was you needed very high lamps, very projectors that control a lot of light out. And at that time, there was no solution. So we either compromise on the brightness or the experience on the screen, or we make it smaller image. Those are two calls we had. And at this time, financially, we had to reinvest and we had to buy the new equipment. But we didn't have a clear understanding of what the future was. Because today we're powering with as much as light based we can, but laser also is coming in now. So it just financially, we didn't know what was going to happen. So then we said, let's try it ourselves. And back then 4K was the new thing, the new projector. So we upgraded all our screens. We were the first ones to do it. All our multiplex screens were 4K.
In India?
No. I wouldn't say India. I'm saying in Hyderabad. I don't think in India. No, I don't think that's the case. But first we upgraded all to 4K because again I told you, grandfather has always said, I want to give the best. Money is secondary for him. For him at this point was, I need to give
experience.
This is the experience. Because in his mind, what he had was the best. I want to bring the best to this thing. So we converted to dual 4Ks at that time. So instead of a single projector, we put a dual projector. And what we learned, we weren't expecting to get away from IMAX, none of that stuff, because IMAX truly back then was the best. Okay? And that they built a brand for themselves and they are the best. If you Google now what is the best cinema, they'll show you IMAX. So our intentions were never to, get away, but what during that interim while we were deciding whether we go to IMAX digital or we wait for laser or whatever, we played our own 4K projector. And it gave us so much flexibility. Because now I can show Telugu movies, I can show local regional content on the large screen. And those numbers that we saw in terms of occupancy was just so convincing that, okay, this is the approach that we have to take now. Because with IMAX, as I mentioned, they do have a content, you cannot play your own content. So only whatever goes to IMAX to get remastered will come onto our screens. So now your local movies, there's no way. I mean, today also you have maybe 5 or 10 IMAX releases in a year. Only the big blockbusters. All the small ones are never going to come. It's on the network. So that's sort of how we transitioned away from being an IMAX screen. And we noticed there was much more acceptance in the sense our occupancies went up. Obviously, we already had those comments saying, I want IMAX back, I want IMAX back. Because that's the brand they created. I mean, if we were in a position where we knew what we wanted to do, then we would have obviously invested in that. But it was in this transition period where it was from analog to digital. Nobody knew what was going to happen.
Where the industry was also headed and what
standards were still being worked on. So.
And the movie that you were talking about, which ran for a year, was I think Avatar.
Not maybe Avatar
Avatar
or
had the same run, and the Polar Express also had the same.
That was
I want
much
to say
earlier.
it's a specific
Polar
rim.
Express
Yeah,
ran
maybe.
in 2000, 2011, 2012, 2013. Khali
Pacific
I think Pacific Rim is the one that played.
Pacific Rim, yeah.
And
Pacific
we
Rim
were
kuda.
running shows with 2 people, 1 people, and
Yeah.
so anyways, so that's sort of what convinced us to get away. But then we always knew that this 4K that we're offering can get better, will get better. We are waiting for the projectors to get better, for the audio systems to get better, because truly today the IMAX audio is, I would say, top. I mean, that's something that it's different. It's not this standard that Dolby or DTS or uses. It's their own proprietary 12.1 system. It's a lot of science has gone in there because IMAX is a technology company.
Yeah.
Whereas in the projectors now, the technology is pretty much the same, but IMAX or even Dolby now, Dolby Cinema, they use the same boxes. So it's like, for example, let us say you have Audi and BMW, right? So you have these 2 main guys who build luxury cars. Now, what IMAX and Dolby has done is taken the traditional top of the line Audi BMWs, taken the engine apart, made some modifications, and reassembled it. Okay, so and then while doing that, they understand now how the content should be modified to get the best experience out of it. So that is why you cannot show a normal normal cinema movie on that. It has to go through the IMAX processing. Or the Dolby Cinema processing. So they basically they have their own the huge R&D facility and all that. So they've done the R&D and they've taken the same stock engine, modified it. And that is their IP. That is something that nobody else can do. So anyway, so why I'm telling you all this is now when it came for us to upgrade to PCX, we were looking in the market, what is the best out there, what will give our viewers the best experience, and that's when we came across these Barco's 4K 60L projectors, which is roughly around 55,000 lumens on each projector. So there's a lot of light hitting the screen, and these are true RGB 6P lasers. So we took this call also because of 3D. Now, the traditional 3D experience that you have are using polarizers.
Right.
So you lose half the light, the experience is really bad, it's viewing angles matter. You sit in the front row, you're going to see a different experience. Sit in the back, you'll see a different experience. So, whereas with these 6P projectors, the 3D technology is no more polarizers. It's all based on laser wavelength. So the glasses have filters which allow different wavelengths of light to come in. So that gives you a whole different experience. So that is why we said let's go with this laser 3D as well. So the package that we went with was top of the line. Those projectors are the best RGB lasers. The 3D is the best in our opinion, because we validated all these different polarizers and stuff, but the light loss is the least, and the 3D experience from any angle is.
And I think this was for Avatar, right?
For Avatar,
It was the best 3D experience I ever.
The latest one, yeah.
Way of Water. It was the best 3D. Because whenever you watch 3D, you can, at this, like the silhouette of the, let's say, body there, koddiya blur aitadi line.
Yeah.
నేను ఇది చూసినప్పుడు హెచ్డి 3D ఉండింది అవతార్ లో ఇదేంటి ఎట్లుంది అనుకున్నా నేను.
ఇట్ వాజ్ అ హోల్ న్యూ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్. అంటే చిన్నప్పుడు చూసి ఏదైతే ఆనందం కలిగిందో అంటే కొత్తగా ఉండే నాకు అప్పుడు. సేమ్ అవతార్ వే ఆఫ్ వాటర్ చూసినప్పుడు కూడా ఆ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ నాకు సిమిలర్ ఉండే. లైక్ ఇట్ హిట్ ద సేమ్ నోట్. నాకైతే అసలు మస్తు ఉండే వే ఆఫ్. ఇట్ ఈస్ ఎవ్రీథింగ్. ఇట్ ఈస్ ద థియేటర్, ఇట్ ఈస్ ద డైరెక్షన్, ఇట్ ఈస్ ద హోల్ movie, but still the whole experience was great.
Yeah. So earlier you were saying, there is a processing that, the film goes through for IMAX. So let's say if a director is shooting in IMAX and he also has to shoot for the normal screen, so he has to do 2 different workflows for his film, like the IMAX processing and
No, so IMAX processing is only the final stage. It's not before. So even if you're shooting on IMAX cameras, you still have to go through the regular post process, which is you'll have editing, you'll have visual effects, you'll have color grading, DI and all that stuff. So all that still happens. IMAX comes in the end where it's called the DMR process, right? And they take the graded outputs, which the colorist, whatever, was already done. Let's say Indian production, right? So colorist sitting in Hyderabad has finished applying the look of the film. They will then pass those files to IMAX. IMAX will then tweak it a bit. They'll have their own image enhancement because their projectors can show a bit more contrast. They can show a bit more brightness.
Okay.
So they remaster accordingly.
Okay.
And then whatever the colorist has already done, that goes for normal projection. IMAX will play only in IMAX screens.
Alright.
So the same thing is happening now with Dolby. Dolby Cinema is coming. So, but I think what we are seeing now is that this whole large screen experience, that is something that's here to stay now.
Right.
Even though economics might not make sense, but
The experience
experience matters because otherwise, if I'm providing you a small multiplex experience, you're going to build it at home and watch it in a couple of years. Why will you even come?
Yeah.
But if I'm providing you a big, larger than life experience, then that is incentive for you to spend money, bring your family, come and watch a movie. So that trend is now changing. So large formats are coming a lot more. And that's when we said, okay, let us try and build this PCX brand and try and stay out. The technology stack behind it will keep evolving. Today we have this projector. Next year, whatever the next projector comes or whether the next technology comes, we will adopt it and implement it. So the back end is going to keep evolving as it changes. But then the brand stays the same, PCX. So that's sort of how, at least what I'm trying to personally push, is open up more of these large format experiences and keep it unique. So the 1.4 aspect ratio, that's a wish list of mine. How do we get back content in that? Because today no cameras are shooting that way. Okay, no camera, even your camera is 1.8 max, the sensor itself. So how do we now go back into 1.43, 4:3? Because that experience it's a lot more pleasing for the eye and all that stuff. So that's a technology challenge. But that's why if you see all our screens not all our screens, this one PCA screen, we kept it at 1.4.
Yeah, I think it was strong MDI.
Strong
you guys
MDI
worked
was the
with.
manufacturer.
So why did you guys go with them? Any particular reason?
It came down to we wanted the best experience, and their technology, the way they coat their screens, it just worked out for us. I mean, even they had the right gain, and it's a reputable company. They do all their work for IMAX. They're IMAX's partner.
Oh, okay.
So most of IMAX screens get shipped out from Strong MDI. Again, Canada-based company. So it was we didn't want to compromise anywhere. Already in our back of the minds, the biggest compromise was getting away from the IMAX network. But that's the only compromise we wanted to make. So,
but
we went.
There was one thing which I observed. Like recently, also we went for a 3D movie. On your left eye, there's
the bottom left.
There's a small spot. I just checked my friends, but it was there for everything. And I think that is because of some. I forgot the word, but
Stigmatization.
Anti-stigma.
No. That's just okay. No, nothing to do with your eyes. It is the way these 3D. So that's the negative about these laser
one.
3D glasses. So that left coating wavelength, which is for blue light. It's I guess because of the angle and stuff, there is a bit of this blue shading. Only the left, bottom
Only
left.
the small one. Yeah.
That's something that we're hoping the next technology will get there because.
But these are much better than the ones in the
ones before.
Yeah, even the brightness. That's a simple.
Exactly, the brightness is a lot better. ముందు దాంట్లో నీకు సో ముందు దాంట్లో అద్దాలు తీసేస్తే ఒక బ్రైట్నెస్ కనపడుతుంది, అద్దాలు పెట్టుకోగానే డిమ్ అయిపోతుంది అసలు.
అండ్ ఫస్ట్ అదే అవతార్ వాజ్ ద ఫస్ట్ వన్ 3Dకి వెళ్ళాము, ఇంటర్వెల్ వచ్చింది.
సెకండ్ అవతార్ 2
వేవ్ వాటర్ ఇట్లా బయట వెళ్తుంటే సెన్సర్ మోగింది. వీళ్ళు సెన్సర్స్ పెట్టారు 3D గ్లాసెస్ కి. డోర్ ఎక్స్పెన్సివ్.
అంటే నువ్వు లేపడానికి ట్రై చేసావా ఏంది?
వాష్రూమ్ క్యారీ చేసుకొని తీసుకెళ్తున్నాను. లేపేం చేసుకోవాలి,
అక్కడ ఉంటాడు కదా ఒకడు, వెరన్ హీస్ ఆస్కింగ్ పీపుల్.
రియలైజ్ దట్
వెళ్ళిపోయా. సెన్సర్స్
When he stopped you,
Yeah. He gave me a token.
He's doing his work.
He gave me a token.
నాకు ఒక డౌట్ ఉంది వెన్ యూ టాకింగ్ అబౌట్ కొలాబరేటింగ్ విత్ డిఫరెంట్ టెక్నాలజీస్ ఇట్స్ నాట్ అ ప్రోడక్ట్ దట్ యు ఆర్ జస్ట్ లుకింగ్ అట్ ఇట్ అండ్ డిసైడింగ్ ఓకే దిస్ ఇస్ నైస్ you have to experience it by yourself.
Absolutely.
And you need to have a team that can make that assessment, right? And you have to travel places, so there's a lot of back end work.
It's not easy. I mean,
Yeah.
see, it's very easy to reach out to the company saying, "Hey, how much does this cost?" They'll give you a quote.
Exactly.
You can. That's one approach. But since we are being in the industry and we are passionate about all this technology, we actually fly down, go to wherever they've installed these screens, or even at their factory, experience it single hand, and then preferably right then and there the same day go see the competition, see how that is experience. So literally even for this whole, when you're upgrading, we flew to Dubai, we flew to Canada just to experience IMAX, experience Dolby Cinema, because these are two things back to back. So we literally spent watched the same, I think it was Dark Knight or some movie like that. We watched Dark Knight.
Nice.
But there's a lot of homework you have to do, because spec sheets are all very similar.
Exactly. So only when you experience it you will understand the challenges
Yes.
that that
It is subjective also in a way, because again, if you go technology, everybody will say this much, these are specifications, blah blah. But once you go and experience it, it's ultimately your eye and your.
because ఇప్పుడు whatever you were just talking about, that is a challenge that I see with television sets right now. Everyone is talking 4K LED whatever.
అన్ని టెక్ లో ఫోన్స్ లో కూడా లైక్ ఆన్ పేపర్ నీకు ఒక ఆండ్రాయిడ్ ఫోన్ కి మ్యాట్ స్పెక్స్ ఉంటాయి కానీ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ వైజ్ చాలా మంది యాపిల్ బాగుంటది అంటారు యూనో డిపెండ్స్ ఆన్ దట్.
Yeah, but your TV point is the right thing to say, because everybody is now the same.
Right, yeah.
4K.
Now 4K
OLED.
TVs has less than 50,000, but the refresh rate is what people don't look at now.
Yeah.
They're
But
still at 50
even
hertz.
that, there is color accuracy.
Right.
There is so much that goes into it that in the back end, which they don't advertise, because it's ultimately a marketing play, right?
It's the 4K that is
That's
selling
what-
the TV. Yeah.
Then now they say HDR, Dolby Vision, Dolby Cinema, I mean Dolby Atmos. So all of these are just standards that you can license. So any manufacturer can license this. Okay, they can say, I'll go to Dolby, I'll say I want Dolby Vision license, pay them a license fee, get that vision, put it into all my TVs. And now I'll put the logo on the
Dolby
bottom.
Atmos.
I'm selling
Dolby
more
Atmos.
headsets.
Yeah.
But now if you compare, let's not keep brands in the play, but let's compare one brand, a top brand, which you're paying same specs, you're paying say 1 lakh versus 50,000. When you actually watch it side by side, you will easily be able to tell this
1 lakh
is
is
much,
better.
1 lakh is better. Why it's better and all that, that is, again, we can talk about this for
Read
days,
the
but
manual
to your eye,
properly and
left
yeah.
is just,
Yeah.
it is better.
For a layman, left side is better.
Yeah.
Color.
So,
Difference అయితే ఉంటుంది టీవీస్ లో
అవును.
పక్కా ఉంటుంది టీవీస్ లో.
but technology is changing so much and very fast today. What we used to say years for a new thing to come, now in months you're getting a
Months
new
you're getting.
Las Vegas Sphere is
Yeah, Sphere.
What are
yeah.
your thoughts on it? Have you seen it?
I have seen it.
Oh, you've been there.
I've been there. Yeah.
Oh, nice.
I was there last year. We were actually trying to work with them. So part of Prasad is we have a manufacturing company in Germany called DFT, and we actually built a 14K film scanner. So what that means is, okay, so film, is no more. You can't project it, right? So now, how do you preserve it, or how do you showcase all those old films? You have to scan it. It's like your normal paper scanner, right? Essentially, you're putting something in, you're scanning, you're getting a digital file out. So we manufactured this 14K high resolution scanner, and we actually went to the Sphere to talk to them, because they have a 16K projection. Now they don't have content. In the sense they built their own cameras, and they're trying to do what IMAX did back in the days, go and shoot these things and show it here. But what if I want to show a movie here? How will
But
I?
isn't the Sphere like LEDs?
It's all LEDs.
It's not LEDs?
It is all
It's
LEDs.
all LED.
It's
All
all
LED.
Like you were saying projections, so I got confused.
No. I mean, you want to project it in the sense you want to display.
Sure.
it.
Okay.
You want to
Got
show
it.
it.
Okay.
So when we scan these film, you gain digital files. Then you can put that onto your LED screens. But they need content, right, for all these old movies. So we're in discussions with them and trying to see what can happen. But
So if the movie, let's say an old movie is scanned, like you just said, and if it is played in the Sphere, does the whole Sphere get covered with the movie? Like, how is it? Like,
No,
the
so-
seating is on the one side, right? Inside the sphere. So, like you said, that it will just be a normal theater experience.
You will have
the
to
size
map
is
it.
different.
So
yeah.
I don't think they will ever do feature films.
Oh, okay.
They won't release a movie there, but they might take clips from certain areas and then map it to that sphere.
The sphere, the size of
They
it.
will do, yeah. So they won't.
Okay.
I don't think that's
Feature film,
their-
I don't think it is made for that. I don't think it is made for that.
It's more like like a planetarium sort of an experience wherein you can.
It's next level.
Next
in a
level.
sense.
Obviously bigger.
ఇప్పుడు నువ్వు ప్లానిటోరియం మనకు స్ఫియర్ నేను ఒప్పుకోలేను ఎందుకంటే నువ్వు
అదే నా మీనింగ్ ఇట్స్ బిగ్గర్ వర్షన్ ఇట్స్
ఫ్యాన్సియర్ వర్షన్
ఫ్యాన్సీ వర్షన్ ఆఫ్
No, but they've paid a lot of attention to just the choice of the LEDs, to the seating positions, to the audio.
obviously when
They have something. What's that company? It's called Hollow Point, I think. Don't quote me, but Hollow something. That is able to localize different audios to you based on where you're sitting.
Oh, damn.
ఓ డామ్
So say you want to listen to the same movie in Telugu, your seat will listen to Telugu, me Hindi, you Tamil, you whatever English.
Oh,
Yeah,
localized sound.
that's. I think they acquired the company also now. There's so it's yeah. So
Heavy,
they've spent a lot.
did you get any sort of inspiration from that idea like localized sound?
See, we have always been service providers. So how do you service that now? We thought of things.
Right.
Localized content now is becoming big. Because now all your OTTs, everybody has, you have different languages, different dubs. You have
Even on YouTube, like the same trailer has
Correct. So how can we service that? We're trying to figure something out using AI and all that.
nice.
Have you seen any content in the sphere?
I saw the demo. And to be honest, I didn't really go to the Sphere in Las Vegas. I went to the LA office where they had a mini sphere. I mean, I was there when they were building it, so I saw the finished product. But we experienced in there a mini sphere in LA. So that's where the production sits, and we're trying to work with them. Anyway, let's see what happens. Hopefully, it works out. But yeah, so coming to I think LA, I mean Vegas, what I was talking to you about. So pretty much for in our industry, that is the post-production industry, there are three main shows that we like to go for every year. One is in Vegas, which is the NAB, National Association of Broadcasters. So it's over, I think, 5 days. It's where basically everyone from the industry is pretty much in Vegas. It's a huge. I'm talking about, I don't know, maybe close.
It's more like an expo.
It's like an expo. So you'll have a bunch of these companies coming there, showcasing their new products, their new solutions, technology. Then you also have industry leaders coming and talking about what is next, what are the standards, where the industry is moving. So it's a nice place for networking and also just understanding what is new. So that's how you go there, you start building relationships, you start meeting the manufacturers or meeting the technology providers, understand what they're offering and see how will that work in India. Will there something that we can offer here? And that's how these strategic partnerships come into play. And so Vegas is one big one. Amsterdam is another big one called IBC.
Okay.
So these are the two main around broadcasting. So when I say broadcasting, it's not just your TV channels, satellites and all, but it's the entire post-production. So right from the camera manufacturers will be there, you'll have your drones, you'll have how AI is coming into this whole post-production, creative space. You'll have your film directors, cinematographers coming and talking about, how they shot this shot, which camera, which, lens, all that stuff. So it's a good place, and that's pretty much that along with all these technology journals or these magazines that come out, that's pretty much how we stay up to date. But once you establish those connections, then it's as simple as giving them a call over the weekend saying, hey, what's new? It just goes from there. It's more like a informal brainstorming, but then ultimately you get so much information and then you think, will this work? Will this price point work in India? Is it something that you can offer? Does the industry need it? Are they happy with how things are right now? How can you make it easier, better, faster? And that's pretty much how, we decide which service to bring and which offering. So that's at least my go-to, how to stay up to date with all this. Another show which is fun, exciting is CES, which is your consumer electronics.
Yeah.
that's fun. Nothing to do with business, but more for my personal satisfaction or whatever you want to call it, because that's all the latest technology. Cool VR headsets, AR, new TVs,
Yeah.
bendable, foldable TVs. Latest everything is there. Flying cars, whatever you want, talk about it. So that's how I get my fix of technology.
Where does this happen?
Vegas. Vegas. So I think,
అన్ని మేజర్ టెక్ కంపెనీస్ కూడా వస్తాయి.
all your Dells to all your big companies.
ప్రోడక్ట్ షోకేస్ చేసుకోవాలి కదా.
Yeah.
దట్ ఈస్ ద ప్లేస్ దట్ ఈస్ టు
అక్కడ అసలు. సో లైక్ earlier you were talking about you guys manufactured that
Film
scanner.
scanners,
So
yeah.
was it part of the film restoration thing? you
Yeah,
had?
so that is the first step
Okay.
for film restoration. So see, film is analog, right? It's nothing but chemical reactions.
Right.
Now, if you don't maintain it at 2 degrees Celsius and a relative humidity of 20 to 30%, your film will start to deteriorate. So, film, you have a base, and then you have 3 different layers on top of each other for each different colors. So, RGB, red, green, blue is your primaries, but over here you have cyan, magenta, and yellow. Those are 3 different layers. So, when light passes through the film, it reacts with those chemicals, and it creates the image. Okay, you would have seen the Polaroid, all that stuff. So anyway, so that's how film works. Now, if you don't maintain it, it starts to disintegrate. Either by the dyes itself will lose its property, so you lose color, you lose channels. To make up a color image, you need red, green, and blue. So if over time, if you don't keep it properly, you'll lose either red or blue. Green is in the middle, so that stays the longest. But red and blue is the extremes. So yeah, so if you don't preserve them well, it starts to disintegrate. And all these films are not made and preserved for eternity. They are made, they are copied into multiple prints, they have gone to all the theaters, they have gone on so many projectors, they have been handled by so many people, they have been scratched, they've
Wear and
exposed to
tears,
dust,
yeah.
all of that. And then finally they'll find one print and they'll say, okay, I want to archive this. So you have to pay.
Yeah.
Back then, no producer, no director thought that, okay, I'm making a movie in the 70s or 80s. I can possibly try and make money in 2020.
Yeah.
Nobody envisioned that. So they were like, what? I made my movie. I've made my prints. I've distributed it. I've collected tickets from whatever shares for 100 days. Chapter close. Move on to the next movie. But only now, because of OTTs, because of all your online YouTubes, content is being consumed. So all these old movies now can be monetized.
And you have 3 verticals: preservation, digitization, colorization.
Yeah, exactly. So let's go one by one. So preservation.
Yeah.
Now, these are all chemical reactions. So there are ways now to chemically bring the film back to how it was. So that's the preservation part, where we are doing a big project with the government of India in Pune, the film archive in Pune, where they've gathered all these different films. So we've helped identify them, catalog them, and now we're bringing them back chemically. So either is it by just adding chemicals, putting it into a dryer, there are different processes about it. Again, it's all chemistry, so it goes beyond me, but there are certain things you have to do, and then you can bring back the film to how it was. Because film, when it's wound in those negative reels, over time, pressure, it starts to combine, merge, become sticky, becomes brittle, it tears immediately. So you try and chemically bring it back to a nice state where it can go on to a scanner. And that is the second step, digitization.
Yeah.
So essentially, preservation is, how do I get my film in whatever crap condition it is to be put onto a film scanner? And then the film scanner now will convert that analog into digital files. So you'll get your files on your digitally. Now it's not JPEG like what we are used to, but it's called DPX.
Okay.
It's the format that all these scan films go through. So now when you scan these films, it's essentially a film scanner. To put it in layman terms, it is somebody with a camera taking a picture of the film. That's how it is.
Each frame.
Each frame.
Obviously.
Yeah, obviously. So 1 second, 24 frames. You're talking about a lack of frames for. So, I mean, there's no person doing it, it's a machine.
That is when I realized I asked that question when you gave that example.
So, yeah, so then now whatever you scan, whatever you capture, it's going to have all these deteriorations. It's going to have dust, it's going to have scratches, it's going to have oil stains because your fingerprint touched oil. When it goes to different projectors, they all have teeth which go into those perforation holes. So the holes get damaged, so it scratches. There's a lot of issues that come up. Now you cannot show that. Sure, if you have a creative intent to show old movie, you will see content online with bunch of scratches and stuff.
yeah.
But if you want it to be reconsumed in a high quality way, that's where restoration comes into play. So you've brought the film, preserved it, you have digitized it, and now you're restoring it. Restoring it is a very manual process where you have to sit and literally touch up. It's like using Photoshop for every single frame.
Got it.
Now that you have new AI tools coming in, you have that will make things faster. But it's still a laborious process. It is, you have to spend hours, multiple people sitting there to remove all these defects. Once that defects have been removed, you then go into final post process, which is you bring back the colors. Okay, so you know that the director wanted that thing to be red in color. So, but he wants this shade of red, not brown or whatever. So we do color grading. We bring it back. We do a DI pass. We're not adding our own creativity. We're just trying to bring back whatever the original DOP director had in mind.
But how would you know that? Like, just like you said.
References. So,
But some of the movies were shot in black and white, kada?
so black and white is technical.
Right.
Black and white is the amount of light intensity. So you either have 0, which is black, or you have 1, which is white. So you play with that. So you just try and make sure that nothing is getting crushed. And crushed in the sense, you never want to truly black is something that absorbs all the light, right? And that will be a digital value of 0. You never want to go that low. You have certain ranges that you want to be, which is nominal. What you can see, what the projectors when they output, you don't want it to be too black where you won't see details. For example, black. So if I grade this extremely black, you won't see the creases. It'll just look one plastic layer. But if you give it a bit more range, you will see all the creases, the extra reflections and all that stuff. So there's no creativity, it's technical there. For these old movies, it's pure technical job. We bring back to where it is and then you re-release it. Then you make it into a DCP and you re-release it. So that's how the trend is now happening. So producers have understood that, okay, there is a market. So I spend a couple lakhs to restore and do this remastering, but I make crores when I release it for a box office. So that's sort of how the industry is moving. Even this week, Mahesh Babu's birthday, they have re-released his own Murari movie. So that's how. So this is becoming a trend. I think Hyderabad is the pioneer in that trend, and they're pushing it. I mean.
But what about the colors that were actually shot in black and white? For example, you guys colorized Maya Bazaar.
That's a whole different service.
Yeah.
So that is the colorization side, which we recently started. Back in the day, colorization was a very expensive, again, labor-intensive, manual, painstaking job because you had to rotoscope all the individual objects. So rotoscope is nothing but, you guys have heard?
I don't know what rotoscope.
Okay. So rotoscope is again a VFX a VFX tool process where and if I want to carve you out or take you out of the image, I need to draw
the outline of.
Yeah, so that's the rotoscopy part. So for colorization, if I want to color your shirt and put Nirvana in yellow, I'll have to draw your shirt first, then I'll have to draw Nirvana, take the dots and then apply the color. So it's extremely painful. And imagine now with your hair.
Every small detail, like
Every
if I have
small
this watch,
watch is different color, yeah.
And again,
so everything has to be colored, and it is
everything has to be colored.
It is very.
And ikkada again, because I'm just assuming because these films were shot in black and white, so the director did not have an intention that I want this particular color. That is where you can play around with your.
That is
you
our
have a liberty over
creativity,
it, right?
subjective.
Right.
That's subjective. So
Yeah.
whether it was red or whether it was brown.
Doesn't matter if whatever it is your choice now.
It's our choice. But
So Maya Bazaar, whatever the color, because I saw it in color.
Yeah.
So whatever colors I saw, అది ఫిల్మ్ చేసినప్పుడు it could have been
might have
different.
been completely different.
Oh, damn.
It might have.
Okay.
So that's the creativity that comes into play, and we don't take those calls.
Okay.
So we colorize in every shot. Like for example, a movie, say an average of 1,000 shots. For each of the shots, single frame, we will colorize and give it to the client for their approval. Then they'll say, no, I don't want this. I want the watch to be gold instead of silver. Things like that will go back and forth. Once it's frozen, then we colorize. But our job is to make sure it's consistent. For example, if I'm coming to this house and my walls are cream, when I come back to this house and maybe half an hour later into the movie, it should also be cream. It can't be brown. That consistency is where we check. But the creative input, we do it and then we give it to the client. They ultimately have to take a call.
It's a collaborative input, end of
It is, because that's subjective.
Yeah.
And even for war footages, all your old war footages, that has to be historically accurate. So that we have a team of historians who will help us, tell, okay, this is the uniform color.
బట్ ఆ కాంటెంట్ మీద మీరు వర్క్ చేస్తున్నారా?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of this content. So it's all these European nations in the US, all these old war footages. It's all coming out now. So
Are
slowly.
you going to release it or?
Those I don't think will be feature film releases. Those are more for documentaries, Netflix releases and stuff.
Okay.
So I don't know what the intent is,
Intent is okay.
but
Nice.
we are working on it. So that's colorization. And why we got into it today is there's a lot of AI tools, and there's a pipeline that we've created which is unique to us. Hopefully it stays unique, but ultimately it helps you do this in a much faster pace. The Prasad per se, restoration and preservation is a big service arm for us. That's sort of been our core for the last couple of years, and along with that, we also offer other post services. So your editing, dubbing, visual effects. And that happens for all movies, any movie that requires it. So essentially, we try to be the back end support for any movie that's being done. That's sort of how we position our brand. We're not producing movies anymore, but we're producing everything, whatever they need, whether it's Atmos mixing, recording studios, dubbing, editing, camera rentals, studio floors to shoot, visual effects, and DI, color grading. So we offer all these different services.
I've seen that you guys have close to about 9 to 11 companies across the globe under Prasad's group.
Yes, it's
One in Germany, one in US. Yeah.
correct. But they're all, I wouldn't say they're all full-fledged
Some are consortiums, I believe.
consortium / even the sales offices,
Right,
just
okay.
more of a last mile to the client kind of offices. So it's not it's a tough industry to be in today because offering services is very competitive.
And ఈ స్పేస్ లో ఇంకెవరైనా ఉన్నారు అభిషేక్ ఇండియాలో?
There are many players.
Like only in the post production service.
Take even Annapurna over here, Annapurna Studios.
Okay, but they're also into production, right? I'm saying hardcore
Correct.
post
No,
production.
but Annapurna Studios is hardcore into post production as well.
And even they do film preservation. Yeah.
Correct. So there are many competitors, but what we believe and what our motto is to always offer the best quality at the most affordable turnaround time. So that's sort of how we like to position ourselves. Scanners, we're manufacturing our own scanners. The restoration, we are one of the largest in the world. When it comes to preservation, we are the largest in the world, I can say today, with this NFAI contract that we've been working on. We worked on so many different films that we can proudly say that. So this is all I'm talking about the last 1 year. The scanning was around 10 years, the digitization, that part. Restoration has again been a 10-year, we've been doing this service. So it's growing, but there is competition and it's difficult. You have to always come up with these technology-based solutions because ultimately every client wants it cheaper. That's going to be
That is
they
something
want the best
everybody will
quality, but they want it cheaper.
Less price.
Less price. And if you don't help them or this thing, they will gladly go to somebody else who's offering, the same thing. And it's quality again is subjective. For example, a scratch, you might say, when you're seeing it in real time, 24 frames, you will miss it. But if you pause it at that one particular frame, you'll see it.
You'll see it.
Is that acceptable? Is that not? For us, it's not acceptable. For others, it might be. So there are key differentiations. But ultimately, if you're a premium output you want, then it will come with a cost, right?
yeah.
So that's where my role. So how I became CTO was I've always been a technology nerd or geek, whatever you want to call it. Even growing up, I used to always just break things and try and build it up again. So I did my engineering. After engineering, I got a very engineering robotics job, just to in my main forte, whatever. And then once I finished my experience abroad, I came here to join the family business. And the first few projects were very technology driven in a sense. We had to set up a digitisation for tapes. So that was, understanding the technology, putting the entire workflows together was quite exciting for me. Then we had to upgrade our entire infrastructure, bring in new storages, bring in new machines, servers. So that sort of, again, is my main interest. So I sort of grew into it, the CTO, but ultimately it's a family-run business. So my roles and responsibilities don't end at CTO. They'll ultimately have to also, grow the business, run the business, and all that stuff. It's right now, the next generation is basically myself, my brother. He also hopefully will join the business soon. He's finishing his master's. But yeah, so it's our goal anyways to continue the legacy of Prasad. And like you said, not many know of all the work that we are doing. That's because we've always been the behind the scenes kind of guys, and don't really take credit or don't want to. But we do understand now times are changing where we have to start talk more about what we're doing. We're getting there, getting slowly better, but.
You were saying that even for the multiplex, you guys just started marketing.
We just literally started social media marketing, but we always felt that your quality and your output will talk for itself.
Right. That is there.
And that's sort of how we've grown to this stage. But again, today there's just so much competition that you have to communicate. See, the legacy that my great grandfather built is very strong. So people are aware of the brand. But if you don't continuously educate and tell them that we are still forefronters, we are still leading, trying to grow and be pioneers in the industry, then you'll slowly be forgotten. I mean, you'll be known as Prasad did this, that, but you will be lost in saying, what is Prasad doing today?
Right.
So that's a challenge that we are dealing with. We're trying to.
And also, manam last time kalsinappudu, you've mentioned that you guys, there are people who come to you and say that, we have a piece of land, we're happy to collaborate with you and, set up another Prasad's multiplex. And you said you don't want to look at expansion, at least at this stage.
Sure.
But again, the ambition for the multiplex that you guys have is still there. While you're doing all the other works like, restoration gani or...
Right.
Yeah.
So funny story that so we were the first multiplex in Hyderabad, and then literally all the other multiplexes that came across were first offered to us. But grandfather back then, again, he was not very how do I say this? He didn't really want to spread out too fast. He said, let me stay with one, focus on it, build that to the top, and then I'll consider scaling out if you want. So literally, we had the opportunity, or we could have, monopolized multiplexes in Hyderabad if we wanted, but we never took that call because again, grandfather wanted to stay, do true justice to this one multiplex rather than open 20 and then give subpar experiences to all 20. So that was a call we took. But to answer your question, now we have been getting a lot of inquiries. And I think part of my goal is to pursue some of this, not past is past. Grandfather's vision is different. Father is very different vision. But I think there is a play for us to enter in the large screen business.
So you're looking at expansions, not immediately, but at least in the long run.
Yeah, we're evaluating everything that comes now, seeing if it's feasible, seeing the location, seeing if
I mean,
it works out.
within Hyderabad, or are you looking at?
Or I mean, India, pan India. So it depends what works. But it's going to be only a large screen. It's not going to be a regular multiplex. We don't want to compete with the PVR, Inoxes, Cinepolis of the world. They're well matured. It's a different thing. But at least if we can recreate PCX alone, then that's something that's exciting to me. And like I said, the technology stack will keep evolving, right? So hopefully by the next year or something, we would have another PCX site with a completely different technology offering.
Did you just say another PCX site?
PCX.
Yeah, yeah, another PCX site. I don't know where it'll be, but that's sort of my personal goal
Okay.
to see if I can get one.
Is it in Hyderabad?
Maybe Hyderabad, maybe not. It's too, yeah.
I'm guessing Chennai.
You can guess
guessing,
whatever
yeah.
you want. So, what was your best movie experience here and around the world?
Over here for sure is the IMAX. Back
Which
then.
movie?
I want to say Everest. That's my first one.
Yeah.
The first experience blew me away. I think that will still stay true to me. Globally, it's quite difficult to say which is better because it's very, very close. There are so many different large screens now. You have China giant screen,
Yeah.
you have Dolby Cinema, IMAX, you have everybody coming up with their own formats. Visually, it all looks very similar.
Sonically?
Sound-wise, I think IMAX has an edge. That's what I would feel. But yeah, so it's very difficult. I mean, literally, I think the latest was when I went to Dubai for just to compare IMAX, Dolby Cinema, and a normal laser-based. It's very hard to tell.
Okay.
It's very, very hard to tell. But audio-wise, I think the sound is just a bit better in IMAX. It's unique.
Nice.
Did you like Avatar more or Interstellar more in the big screen? Avatar 1, not 2. I know it is a difficult question. I'm going to ask the same question to these guys also as well. But
I would say Interstellar.
Yeah.
Not good
Interstellar,
Interstellar. Especially that
wormhole scene.
docking scene. Not docking scene.
docking scene
అసలు
obvious, కానీ
goosebumps.
can't feel చేసా.
నీకు ఫస్ట్ ఓపెనింగ్
Opening
షాట్
shot,
సడన్ గా పెద్దగా అయ్యి మళ్ళీ కట్ అవుతుంది. దాని తర్వాత కార్న్ఫీల్డ్ చేస్ దగ్గర అయితే గూస్ బంప్స్ ఫస్ట్ టైం సడన్ గా
పెద్ద
I remember నాకు ఎస్పెషలీ ఫర్ ఇంటర్స్టెల్లార్ మూవీ నువ్వు నేను యశ్వంత్ మౌలి I went to the theater. I mean the tickets weren't available on
the book my show.
So I went to the theater and there was this old guy who was standing in the line. Basically he was like, I've come here to purchase Interstellar tickets. And for some reason వాడు కూడా ఇచ్చేసాడు. ఇంకా అవైలబుల్ లేవు యాక్చువల్లీ ఆన్లైన్ ఇచ్చేసాడు. అండ్ దెన్ ఐ వెంట్ అండ్ ఐ వాజ్ లైక్ ఇంటర్స్టెల్లార్ టికెట్స్ అంటే లేదు ఆన్లైన్ వస్తుంటే ఇప్పుడైనా ముందు ఇచ్చారని చెప్పి నేను గొడవ పెట్టుకుని మరి తెచ్చుకున్నా టికెట్స్ 4 టికెట్స్ అట్ ప్రసాద్స్.
మా బెంగళూరు నుంచి వచ్చి చూసారు.
చాలా మంది వచ్చారు. చాలా మంది ఇంటర్స్టెల్లర్ కి వచ్చారు, హ్యారీ పాటర్ మూవీస్ కి వచ్చారు. విఘ్నేష్ వచ్చాడు, వాళ్ళ ఫ్యామిలీ శ్వేత వాళ్ళందరినీ వేసుకొని వచ్చారు.
నాకు ఆ సీన్ ఎస్పెషలీ వాడు టార్స్ ఇట్స్ ఇంపాసిబుల్ అంటే నో ఇట్స్ నెసెసరీ అనేది ఇట్లా మ్యూజిక్ ఎక్స్ప్లోడ్ అయిపోయింది
బిగ్ స్క్రీన్
వేరే
గాడ్లీ లైక్.
అందుకే థర్డ్ టైం ఇందాక మీరు అన్నట్టు మా పేరెంట్స్ని మీరు సినిమా మీరు చూడకపోండి కానీ మీరు అది ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ చేయాలి అని తీసుకెళ్ళా థర్డ్ టైం వాళ్ళని. 3 times చూసాను నేను ఐమాక్స్లో.
నేను 2 times. బట్ అవతార్ 1 కూడా బాగుండే. ఇంటర్స్టెల్లర్ నాకు తెలిసి మనం ఇంకొంచెం పెద్దగా అయ్యాము, నోలన్ ఇష్టము, ఇంకా ఆ మూవీ ఇన్ జనరల్ ఆ నోలన్ మూవీ టేకింగ్ ఇంకా ఇష్టం కాబట్టి నచ్చింది అని అనుకుంటా. బట్ అవతార్ 1 బ్లూ మై మైండ్. లైక్ దిస్ నథింగ్. ఆ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ ని బీట్ చేసేది లేకుండా నాకు అప్పటి వరకు నిజంగా లేకుండా.
ఫస్ట్ ప్రసాద్ స్క్రీన్ లో చేసా, తర్వాత బిగ్ స్క్రీన్ లో చేసా సెకండ్ టైం.
అవతార్ ముందు అంతా నేను ఇట్లా మైండ్ బాగిల్ అయిపోయిందంటే స్పైడర్ మ్యాన్ 3 ఉండే నాకు చాలా. బట్ స్పైడర్ మ్యాన్ 3 నేను బిగ్ స్క్రీన్ లో చూడలేదు. నేను సంగీత్లో చూసా, సికింద్రాబాద్ సంగీత్లో చూసా. వస్తుంది ఆ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్, సంగీత్ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ కూడా బాగుంటుంది. ఓల్డ్ థియేటర్ కదా, పెద్ద థియేటర్, మంచి సౌండ్ సిస్టమ్ ఉంటుండే సంగీత్లో. మ్యాడ్.
But do you also plan on going back to producing movies or?
Unfortunately, none of us have the ability. Grandfather tried. Both didn't work out. Again, he thought these subjects would work out, but again, it's not what the audience wanted. So we are evaluating it. Obviously, we start off slow, maybe OTT, net web series first. Then we'll try feature films. But it is something that's how we started. So if we can bring that back, then nothing like it. But it'll be our appetite for risk is not as high as it should be or it can be. So take things slow. We have to evaluate things because our core competency has been technical services.
Right.
So to go from there, we need to let's get out of our comfort zone. Okay, quick one. PCX, did you experience Avatar 2? All of you guys?
Yes.
Okay, because for that, I think my personal best experiences of Avatar 2 was in our PCX. I think it's because that 3D was just blew my mind.
In terms of technology, నాకు కూడా ఆ 3D experience Avatar 2 but for me the cinematic experience, that one scene, it was Interstellar for me.
Right.
I'll give you a small example about the experience. Like when we were kids, like if you see a 3D movie, you try to grab something from the screen, right? I had the same kind of feeling when I was watching Avatar 2. No other movie made me do that.
What do you want to grab? ఏం పట్టుకుందాం?
But నాకు ఆ ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ చాలా ఉండే.
కానీ మీరు అబ్జర్వ్ చేశారో లేదో, అవతార్ అదే వే ఆఫ్ వాటర్ లో ఒక దగ్గర ఫ్రేమ్ రేట్ డ్రాప్ అవుతుంది. ఆ వేల్ వాటర్ నుంచి ఇదేమి అసలు ఎట్లా ప్రూవ్ చేశాడు అని అనుకున్న తర్వాత చూస్తే అది ప్రాసెసింగ్ లో ఏదో డిఫరెంట్.
They did a lot of experimentation. They did multi-frame rate.
అండ్ దాంట్లో ఏదేదో టెక్నాలజీ వాడారని కూడా చెప్తున్నారు కదా. అవతార్ 2 లో అసలు ఫ్లూయిడిక్ మోషన్ రావడానికి అసలు ఎంత చాలా కష్టపడ్డారంట. అంత సేపు
Did you enjoy that? Sorry, did you enjoy that 48 frames per second? Did you notice the difference?
అంటే అక్కడ మధ్యలో ఇలా గ్లిచ్ అయినట్టు
Adi glitch that happened towards the end.
అండ్
last scene,
అపార్ట్ ఫ్రమ్ దట్ ఇట్ వాస్
yeah?
సీమ్లెస్.
No, but you enjoyed it.
Yes.
Okay. Because that was the first movie that had high frame rate. Normal is 24.
No.
This was it for 48 frames.
And also, I'm not sure about this, Gani. Like, I heard that James Cameron is kind of anti-IMAX because they're getting a monopoly and they are...
No comment on that. I'm not going to get into it.
So he intentionally shot on other cameras which are kind of similar to
I
IMAX.
heard he built his own
Yeah,
cameras
yeah.
because
No.
all those 3D sequences he had to.
Avatar 1K వాళ్ళ ఓన్ టెక్నాలజీ బిల్డ్ చేస్తూ
అవతార్ 2 కి కూడా చాలా
చేశారు. అవును,
నేను అనౌన్స్మెంట్ వచ్చింది చూసిన.
చూడలే.
అవతార్ 3
Hey, he's releasing it.
అదేదో ఫైర్ ది
ఉంటుంది, yeah.
అదేంది వేవ్ ఫైర్ అదేదో
తెలీదు
ఉంటుంది.
కానీ
Oh,
Fire
I heard they're not going to pursue it because
Why? No.
Avatar 3.
yeah, because even though they gross so much and they whatever, they didn't make profits.
అవునా?
జస్ట్ బ్రేక్ ఈవెన్ అయింది.
Just break even.
సెకండ్ బ్రేక్ ఈవెన్.
I heard 2.3 billion is the box office.
Yeah, they probably
Fire
spent
and ash.
2.3 billion on shooting.
That's a feat.
Yeah, that's
అంటే ఇంకా మొత్తం అన్నిటికి ఎదురవుతే మూవీ ప్రొడక్షన్ కానీ కాదు, పోస్ట్ ప్రొడక్షన్ వాటి చేసే మార్కెటింగ్ అయినా ఏదైనా ఇంక అన్ని లివ్ లైఫ్ కింగ్ సైజ్ లాగా చేస్తాడు అన్నాడు జేమ్స్ కెమెరాన్. అట్లా చేస్తారు పైసలు అయిపోయినట్టు.
What is your home theater like? Do you have one?
no.
No?
So whenever
Yes,
I come to
PCX,
Hyderabad, I go watch movie.
హోమ్ థియేటర్.
Yeah.
Did you ever do that though? ఎప్పుడైనా just close the whole theater and watch the cinema late in the night at PCX?
So I did that very recent, but not how you're portraying it.
Not closing it, but after
I'll
business
tell you
hours.
which movie. No, so we were renovating the seats
Yeah, for Kalki, right?
for Kalki.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
before Kalki, Dune 2 was released.
Right.
I didn't see Dune 2 yet.
Okay.
So I came here. They shut down the theater, but I think the last show was 3 o'clock show, whatever.
Yeah.
7 o'clock, my brother and I we said we wanted to watch Dune, so we watched it.
Nice.
But that wasn't a special show for us or whatever. It is already shut down.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's the first and only time I'll probably do it.
But Dune 2 was good.
Very
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
I liked. I mean,
Into set
it's
this.
amazing. People
Especially-
told it is slow a bit, but
Yeah.
I didn't feel it.
No,
మనకి ఇష్టం రా డ్రామా మనం చూస్తాం
అదేలే,
అందరికి
అదే.
అందరూ
అవునవును. అదే ఒప్పుకుంటా.
నాట్ ఎవ్రీబడి వుడ్ లైక్ ఇట్.
కానీ నా ఫేవరెట్ సీక్వెన్స్ మాత్రం
Dune.
కొలోజియం లో వాడు ఎంటర్ అవుతాడు చూడు,
Black and white scene.
సడన్ గా క్రోమ్ బ్లాక్ అండ్ వైట్, అక్కడ మ్యూజిక్ కూడా
ఇంకొకటి వాడు ఎంటర్ అయ్యేటప్పుడు అందరూ జనాలు ఉంటారు, వాడు ఒక్కడు ఇట్లా అని అందరు జనాల మధ్య నుండి వెళ్తాడు, ఫుల్ క్రౌడెడ్, వాడు ఒక్కడు వెళ్తూ ఉంటాడు. ఆ షాట్ పైనుండి తీస్తాడు, అది ఐమాక్స్ లో వచ్చింది, లైక్ ఫుల్ బిగ్ స్క్రీన్ లో వచ్చేది. అది షార్ట్ ఐమాక్స్ లో
అది నువ్వు అక్కడ చూసావు అనుకుంటా. ఇక్కడ మనకి
నేను అక్కడ చూసాను.
Yeah, అదే యూఎస్ లో చూసాను.
యుఎస్ లో చూసినప్పుడు అయితే మొత్తం ఫుల్ స్క్రీన్ పడ్డది అది. అదొకటి
యా, ఇంకొక
స్టార్టింగ్ సీన్ లో అందరు ఇట్లా పైకి వెళ్తారు చూడు మౌంటైన్ లో.
అది మస్తు ఉండే,
Amazing.
మీకు అది నచ్చింది. సో లైక్ డిఫరెన్స్ ఒక కర్వ్, కొద్దిగా కర్వేచర్ పెట్టడము స్క్రీన్ లో అండ్ ఫ్లాట్ స్క్రీన్ వల్ల డిఫరెన్స్ ఏమైనా?
Difference in the sense it's how would I explain this? Technically, no difference in the sense from what you were experiencing. It's all to do with the lens and the width of the what you're trying to cover. So you can get a flat screen, but you have to choose a different lens.
ఓకే.
If you want a curved screen, a different lens. That's about it. But
సో లెన్స్ టు షూట్ ఇట్ సెల్ఫ్, దట్ ఈస్ వాట్ యు గైస్
no.
దెన్
To
టు
project.
ప్రొజెక్ట్.
But I think what you were trying to ask when you mentioned it is why those heights change mid shots. Some shots you have full height, some are not. So that is the whole digital, because these projectors, all projectors today, even if at IMAX, anybody, the DMD chip, which is the actual chip that is giving you the content to display out, those are all 1.89 only.
ఓకే.
Okay. So now when you watch an IMAX movie, for example, you have some shots where you'll see black on top and bottom, and some shots you'll see the full height.
ఫుల్ స్క్రీన్.
So it is basically 2-point scope throughout the movie. Only on those shots where they've captured 1.8 while shooting, those are being projected at 1.8. So it is not 1.4 like how IMAX was back in the day.
okay.
And that is something that it will take time because projectors are not building for that aspect ratio. Today you have cameras that are shooting 1.4. So hopefully this whole 1.4 will come back eventually. So that's what when you go for a movie, some shots you'll see
Right.
the scene, and some you'll see the full screen. It's nothing but they have shot in a camera which has captured 1.8. So that's about it.
నైస్.
And I think there's also this bit. I mean, it's not around cinemas or films, but the L.V. Prasad Eye Institute.
Yeah, so that how it started is my great grandfather. So he said I became who I think this was. Don't quote me, but this is what he said. I am who I am only because of people watching my content. So this is his way of giving back to society. So the Prasad family doesn't really get involved in the operations of it. We're only on the board. But what we did is that land we were able to give it to them and set up this eye hospital. It's a complete non-profit. Close to 50 to 60% are completely taken for free, and whoever can afford, they end up paying. But that's grown to a huge operation now. It's so many. I don't know how many hospitals they've opened, but that was sort of my great-grandfather's way of giving back to society. So that was the vision behind it. But we're not running the hospital.
Cool.
Okay, when did the hospital start?
Ooh,
I think early 2000s.
Early 2000s.
అనుకుంటున్నా or late 2000s.
No, early 2000s, yeah.
Somewhere there, yeah.
So yeah, we were responsible for. We gave them the land first, then we helped them find. Build the entire thing up, and then also we found the right person to run this. So Mr. Rao was one we got. We actually, my grandfather flew to the US to convince him to move back to India and set this up, and he is the one who has grown the institute to where it is today. So yeah, but we're not involved in the day-to-day operations.
So have you had any formal education on the technical side of the film or anything, or did you just had engineering and the masters that you did?
Just engineering and masters from the tech. Technology is the same, but the film experience and the film knowledge, I had the luxury and the opportunity. I was lucky to be around people who were dealt with film firsthand. So it's all from their experiences.
From their
Practical knowledge.
Literally that. It's otherwise it's. No book today will tell you any of this. Theory is always there. You can read about it, but unless you actually talk to someone who's touched and felt it, it is difficult. So I did electronics. So for me, at least that background on how things work, how this systems software works, all that was helpful. But coming to film, that particular domain, it came from domain experts. So my grandfather, my father, pretty much their experiences, and even those who have been with us for so many years, just spend time with them, you'll learn a lot. And then hands-on experience.
Nice.
ఎప్పుడైనా ఒకసారి if it's possible, we would just want to have a tour of the labs, like just to
The
understand.
lab today is being renovated.
Right.
We are. It's been some time. It's not been given the care that we have ought to have given it. So now it's time. So it's getting a major makeover. So right now in the lab, if you come, you're going to see construction.
Not now, at least whenever it's ready.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think Chennai would be a nice trip as well, because that's the major headquarters. That's where most of the people and teams are. But yeah, anytime.
Yeah,
Glad to have you guys.
ఇంకా ఏమైనా
అంతే.
questions?
I think
One last question. Okay, what was the longest run movie in the big screen, or the most number of shows? Because Avatar, I knew because it just ran the whole year.
Correct.
A year or two, it was just there. Like, is that the longest run movie?
I want to say Avatar or Dark Knight.
Dark Knight.
I need to check. I need to check between those two. But I think Avatar might win it. I think.
ఎందుకంటే డార్క్ నైట్ ఉండే కానీ ఆ అవతార్ రిలీజ్ అయిన 3 years కి కూడా అది పెట్టారు 3-4 years కి 2012 లో కూడా ఉండే షో. ఎందుకంటే అన్న నేను వల్ల పోయినా నాకు చాలా ఉండే. బట్ ద వే యూ గైస్ ఓపెన్ ద మల్టీప్లెక్స్ ఆల్సో వాస్ very well thought out. Like, the lot of small details at the climbing wall. The climbing wall, nobody has put it anywhere.
ఆ టైంలో
అంటే 3 stories high ఉంటుంది, 3 floors high ఉంటుంది. అది ఇట్ ఈస్ ఇంట్రెస్టింగ్. అందరూ దో దే వేర్ ది హార్నెస్ అండ్ దే స్టిల్ ట్రై టు డూ ఇట్, బట్ ఇట్స్ స్టిల్ అ నైస్ ఐడియా జస్ట్ టు put it there as an attraction inside. Exactly, at the entrance లోపల రాగానే. And in general the structure of Prasads కూడా నాకు చాలా ఇష్టం. అంటే ఆ కర్వ్ మొత్తం డోమ్ లా
It was a
ఉంటుంది.
nightmare to execute apparently.
it's still a nightmare to clean the glasses now.
No, that building has gone through many changes just in thought process. Because before it was a mall multiplex.
Yeah.
Now we're only an FEC.
What is an FEC?
FEC is a family entertainment center.
Okay.
So there's no shopping now. You have the impulse shopping and everything else is gaming and multiplex.
గేమింగ్ ది
అంటే అది దాని తర్వాత అంటే చాలా గేమ్స్ ఉండేరా. అంటే నేను దాంట్లో చూసినవి టెక్కెన్ అయినా ఏదైనా చాయిస్ బాగుండే. లైక్ ద చాయిస్ ఆఫ్ మూవీస్, ద చాయిస్ ఆఫ్ గేమ్స్ దట్ యూ గైస్ హ్యాడ్ ఇన్ ద ఫస్ట్ ఫ్లోర్ ఆఫ్ ద ఆర్కేడ్, ఇట్ ఈస్ వెరీ నైస్ ఫ్రమ్ ద స్టార్ట్. Like, it is not a later additions to it. Most of the games are still there. Like the way it started, I think at least 30 or 40% of the games are still there, I feel.
It's-
On the back side. The front side has changed a lot.
Correct.
But there's a small area where all this Tekken is there.
dance,
Dance. అదే నేను ఫస్ట్ టైం నేను డాన్స్ రెవల్యూషన్ అక్కడే చూసాను.
నేను కూడా.
నేను స్కూల్లో ఉన్నప్పుడు ట్రై చేసి ఉంటే డాన్స్.
వీడంటే ఎట్లా దుంకుతున్నాడు అనుకున్నా. ఓ షెడ్ ఆ రోజు చూసి దుంకుతున్నాడు అనుకున్నా. అండ్ ఇంకొకటి చాలా మంచి థింగ్ ఏంటంటే స్నాక్స్ కూడా అసలు ఎక్స్పెన్సివ్ కాదు కంపేర్ టు అదర్ ఇవి. సో
It is something that will never change.
Thank you.
But I mean, even over the years, we have increased the rates.
I think last 2-3 years lo, but
we
it's
had to-
still
చాలా
Still
better.
a pain లేదు.
Still
When people are
affordable.
spending, that pain is not
Still
there.
affordable, because if some multiplexes have a small Coke, it is around $400, and a small tub of popcorn is around $450, and you don't feel like enjoying that. While even if you buy it and take it inside the theater, you enjoy it, yes, because you bought it, but
Doesn't leave a good
It's
feeling.
not a good feeling.
Go with your
So-
family, you're spending 2,000, 3,000 rupees just on popcorn and
Popcorn,
Coke. It's not,
ridiculous.
And also eating popcorn is like a cheap thrill that you get to experience only in theaters. అక్కడ కూడా అది $500 అంటే లైట్. It's no more a cheap thrill.
It is not a cheap thrill.
Even when we were increasing our prices, there was so much of debate. Grandfather was against it. All the finance people were saying we have to do it, otherwise we're losing. So it was.
But it's a nice.
It took a lot of time. It took, I think, 10 years for us to do the first hike.
I think in 2021 or 2022
when
you guys
basically
did it.
after every renovation,
Yeah.
that's when finance is like, sir, come on, yeah.
అట్లా పోతేనే ఉంది సార్.
Because you guys underwent a major renovation during COVID.
Yeah.
And I know why that happened, because your team was telling me that, it is not just for the masses, it is also, it's basically for everyone, Prasads. And you guys wanted to cater to,
Correct. It's
yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's our only baby, no. So why are we losing attention on it? So
Yeah.
it's I mean, right now, okay, sure, it is a tourist area, so we're getting a lot of floating crowd. But still, in most of people in Hyderabad, they have that, I guess, soft corner for Prasad. So we have to constantly.
అవును
Not-
టికెట్స్
not
ఫస్ట్
lose-
ప్రసాద్ లోనే చూస్తాను.
చూస్తాం. నేను
ఉంది అంటే అక్కడే
అంతే.
ఉంటే అక్కడికే వెళ్ళి అక్కడ లేకుంటే వేరే థియేటర్స్ వెళ్తాం కానీ.
No, we're grateful for that. I mean, grandfather, that's what. So he actually moved here in 2009. He's never come back.
Oh.
We were in Chennai first, and then when he built this, he never left it. Now he's staying here only. So.
The grandfather still
recently,
stays here.
Yeah. He still stays here.
We went for that literature flea market at Salapuria. There was a small gig that was happening where a couple of actors were talking about cinema, and someone was talking about multiplexes, and even the actors were like, go to Prasad's.
Yeah.
That's the best experience. The actors were saying this. So yeah.
And ఇంకొక ఇంట్రెస్టింగ్ part of Prasads in general is the posters that they put on the dome. Like that always caught my eye.
Oh man,
And
that's
it's a
another
nightmare.
sensitive topic for us.
Okay.
Because well, I'll tell you why. So, okay, obviously the look and the feel is
Yeah, it is.
amazing, right?
It's
The
amazing,
brands,
man,
it's good
obviously.
visibility, all that is there.
Spider-Man was like this for a long time.
Right. It looks cool. It is all that is there. But what we've been having problems is whenever someone's removing it, when you have to cut it, right, they end up cutting the glasses, the glass binding chemicals. So then we have water leaks.
Oh damn.
So I mean, it looks great. You can do so much because right from the bridge you can see it. And it's nice look and feel. But it just becomes a pain because okay, you're getting revenue for your ads, but you're going to spend so much more trying to waterproof your dome.
yeah.
And that dome is not an easy task to maintain. It's given us hell. But
But still, I like it. I like the posters to be kept
Business
on the
నీది
dome.
కాదు.
అదే అందుకే just like అంటున్నా. I don't know the problems of it. But
when's the last time you guys went to Prasad's for gaming?
For gaming.
గేమింగ్
So
Actually,
I played like 1 month back, but not. I didn't go there just to game. I went for the movie and just came down because it was a new place. I just played 2 games and then.
After COVID, we went once.
We went
నేను వీడు
once.
వెళ్ళాము. In fact, you took a picture of me. ఆ చిన్న గుర్రం మీద కూర్చున్నా.
చూసిన
Yeah.
గుర్తుంది.
కానీ లైక్ చిన్నప్పుడే ఇంకా ఎక్కువ ఉండింది, ఎందుకంటే నేను ఆ టికెట్స్ కలెక్ట్ చేసుకుని వచ్చి జస్ట్ నాకు 150-200
ఇంట్లో
వచ్చింటే
డబ్బా
నెక్స్ట్ టైం
ఉంటుండే. Next time వెళ్ళి తీసుకొని
ఫైనలీ
వెళ్తుండే.
నాకు అది కావాలా టెడ్డీ బేర్ పెద్దది పైన ఉంటది, నాకు ఇప్పుడు ఒక పెన్సిలే వస్తుంది, పెన్సిల్ లైట్.
నేను ఇన్ఫాక్ట్ ఆ చాక్లెట్ ఫౌంటైన్ కూడా ఫస్ట్ టైం ఎక్స్పీరియన్స్ చేసింది ప్రాబ్లీ ప్రసాద్.
అది కూడా
Is there a reason you asked that question?
No, because
do you like
upgraded-
any particular game in that?
No, we've upgraded the whole thing.
Yeah.
So part of what we're doing is also VR and AR gaming. So we introduced the VR games there. This was in 2019, right? Right before we went into lockdown.
రైట్.
That's when we converted that whole thing into
thing,
that Area
yeah.
51, is what we're calling it.
What are your future plans for that multiplex? Like,
For that,
Yeah.
continuously bring in whatever the new concepts are coming in. So right now, the entire building is filled. There's not a single empty spot. But the idea is to keep innovating and whatever is working globally.
he wanted to ask something
4D.
of 4D, yes.
4D experience, like do you like it, or what are your thoughts?
4D for different content is okay, not for all content. But
Specific content.
Yeah, specific content. It's not all. So even that, we recently renovated it. Again, when we first brought it, it was a whole different setup.
I think it was the first one here.
It was the first one. But now I think, honestly, if you ask me, that's more for the masses. That's for someone who's never experienced a 3D or a 4D ride, it is the best experience for
Yeah.
them. But me personally, and even for you guys, I'm sure you've tried out so many different rides. It might not be as thrilling or as fulfilling as you want it to. For example, I mean, being so involved into VR, for me, a VR game is much more immersive than any 4D or any 3D experience. So the only advantage in that 4D theater is you will get water on you, you get bubbles, snow, air,
moments, yeah.
that's it. But
Right.
soon, even the way that is being done will change. You have these haptic feedback suits, which, if you get shot in a game, you'll feel the bullet
that,
movement. So all that is there. So all that, once it's ready for commercial, we'll bring it one by one.
Right.
So
We didn't go to the gaming part, but we're going for the bowling thing nowadays. Just before the movie, ఒక half an hour ముందెళ్దాం try చేస్తాము so that we can do that. Yeah.
you guys should go on the night when they turn the lights off, when the black lights come on.
That is when
better
we go.
experience.
Yeah.
Oh,
That
okay.
is when we go. Yeah.
We normally go during
For
the
night
night shows.
Okay.
So that is when all of us are free. Like during the day, most of us have our own jobs, right? So we are anyways busy. Even during the weekends, we try to go in the night so that it doesn't disturb the rest of the day. We can do whatever we want during the day, and night we can just go watch a movie and just leave.
All right. I think we can conclude it here.
Thank you so much.
No,
Abhishek.
thank you for having me. It's
Thank you
been
so
a
much.
fun, 2 hours have we
Yeah,
had?
almost was.
Almost to us.
Thank you.
We'll
Thank you.
definitely do this again.
Definitely, yeah. And we
And చెన్నై దానికి వస్తాము.
Yeah,
please,
Prasad.
Yeah,
please.
welcome.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay. Thanks, guys.